Let's get this here. And who's doing it? It's, you are, Corey. You're doing the pledge. Good evening. We're going to call this meeting of the West Covina City Council to order. We've been just came back from closed session. We'll start. If you can please rise, we'll have an invocation led by Pastor Mason Okubu from the Emmanuel First Lutheran Church, and then Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Corey Warshaw.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for this opportunity, Councilman. Appreciate it. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, guardian and keeper of your people, watch over the members of our city council and protect them. Grant them wisdom and permit them to experience the joys of noble service to grateful people. Encourage cooperation from those who are served and those who serve. Promote all things for the good of the people of West Covina, and may your will be accomplished among us. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag, place your right hand over your heart, and join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we get roll call, please?
Councilmember Toma?
Here.
Councilmember Warshaw?
Here.
Councilman Wu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Spence?
Here. Are there any items to report out of closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there is one item to report out. The council in closed session did give direction to staff to cease efforts or planning to move the fire station number 3 to Palm View Park. Nothing further.
Okay, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor, there's no changes to tonight's agenda.
I was going to switch the two presentations because I think that one might be a little longer, if that's okay. If that's okay. Where's the proclamation? Is on? Okay. Yeah, today is the 16th of January, and every 16th of January since 1992, the President of the United States has declared it Religious Freedom Day. And it's to commemorate the Virginia House of Delegates putting in, it was a much longer than our current First Amendment version of exercise of free religion. And, you know, yesterday we celebrated Martin Luther King's birthday. And if you know anything about the civil rights movement, anywhere Martin Luther King went, where did he go? He went to a church. You know, there would be no civil rights movement if there wasn't a church. If you go to Boston, you know, they have the Freedom Trail. And if you go on the Freedom Trail, there's some churches on that trail. There's also some taverns, you know, but the Revolutionary War was organized in taverns and churches. And they have another trail. I don't know if not as many people know about the Black History Trail. I kind of think it's American history, but Black History Trail, and it's about the abolitionist movement. And if you go on that trail, you know what's on there? Lots of churches. And so religious freedom has been an important part of American history. And we have a proclamation here, and I wanted to present it today to Isaiah Martinez, who's here. And I don't know if Alex want to come. You want to come on up? I know, don't be shy. But Isaiah was a student in a, which school was it? Elementary school? Which one was it? Merced Elementary School. And he had brought some candy canes that had a religious message on it that he was going to pass out during lunch. Like everybody was passing stuff out around Christmas time. And one of the government employees there decided that the message wasn't appropriate. And so they threw it away and discarded it. And the important thing is Isaiah and his family stood up for religious freedom. And so I think it's appropriate today that we declare today and recognize Religious Freedom Day and present you, Alex, with this proclamation about Religious Freedom Day. And thank you for standing up for that. You want to say anything? Sure. You know, he doesn't want to say anything, but that's okay. You have that right too. So, but thank you very much for coming. And, oh, you can get a picture up here? Yeah. You want to bring the family up or recognize them? Okay, how many of you are homeowners here? And listening at home, if you're a homeowner, property owner, do you know about the homeowner's exemption? If you sign up for the homeowner's exemption, $7,000 worth of your home, the government doesn't get to tax it. So you can save some bucks, right? January is Homeowners Exemption Awareness Month. And that's why we're here today, because I was actually stunned by the figures. About 30% of homeowners that could be eligible for this have not applied for it. Yeah, 32 almost. It was 31 point whatever, yeah, 32. Can you believe that? So 32% of people could get about 70 bucks off their property tax bill if they just applied for the exemption. So I wanted to recognize from the county assessor's office. You want to come down here? I want to thank you for bringing this to everyone's attention because it's a very valuable benefit. Did you want to talk about it real quick? Go ahead.
Mayor, council members, thank you for allowing me to say a few words on behalf of Los Angeles County Assessor Jeffrey Prang. As you may know, today the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors declared January as Homeowners Exemption Awareness Month. The assessor is working diligently to make certain that every eligible homeowner is aware of this important saving program and can take advantage of the saving on their annual property tax bill. In essence, the homeowner's exemption reduces the taxable assessed value of property by $7,000, which translates to an annual savings of $70. To be eligible, the property must simply be in the owner's principal place of residence as of January 1st of the calendar year. In the grand scheme of things, $70 may not seem like much. However, in the county as a whole, there are over 435,000 homeowners who do not take advantage of this program. They account for 30% of homeowners. As a result, more than 30 million goes unclaimed each year. In West Covina, over 6,500 homeowners, or almost 32%, do not take advantage of this savings, leaving almost $500,000 unclaimed. The assessor wants to make certain that all residents take advantage of this tax savings program. We continue to partner with other government agencies and utilizing platforms such as social and traditional media to inform homeowners about this and other tax saving programs. The assessor's hope is that your formal declaration today will aid those efforts and produce additional savings for West Covina taxpayers. Thank you once again.
Mike, can you tell the audience how they can check to see if they're currently getting the exemption or not?
Absolutely. So if you go to the assessor website, just go to lacounty.assessor.gov. There's a little search engine, we call it a portal. You just type in your address and it'll come up. And then where it says HOX for homeowners exemption, if there's nothing in it, if there's nothing there, you don't have it. It'll state pretty clear. If you do have any questions or issues trying to find out if you have an exemption, please give us a call. You could give our executive office a call. The number is 213-974-3101. It's 213-974-3101.
And Mayor, just to let the members of the public know, the City of West Covina has created a friendly URL for you to be able to find out the information about the homeowners exemption. You simply go to westcovina.org/homeowners. That is westcovina.org/homeowners, and it will redirect you directly to the LA County Assessor's Office page regarding the homeowners exemption credit.
Just want to say, my parents actually are homeowners here in West Covina, and it's nice to be here.
Well, we want to thank you for coming tonight and give you this proclamation to give to your boss, that we did it for this month. And again, if you're at home, go ahead and check. It's your money, so go ahead and check. Phil?
You actually,
The question was whether I can apply online.
oh, you could print out, we have the form online. Unfortunately, you can't apply online. You have to print it out because it needs your signature.
Right, so everybody got that? So go ahead and check. You might be surprised. You might get $70. And just remember, the city council helped you. Just remember that. No, anyway, no, but thank you. And the county assessor, Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now we'll have a presentation from Police Chief Mark Taylor, who's already up here, I think. Chief?
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and residents. As I have now been in my position for just over 90 days, I would like to provide an update on the department and a vision for moving forward. Prior to being hired, feedback was solicited from the community as to what they were looking for in their new chief. Issues such as addressing homeless issues, working within budget challenges, retention and recruitment of officers, problems in public parks, drug dealing, traffic safety, and car and mail theft were all identified. As you know, over the years, we have had a reduction in our police personnel, having moved from 127 sworn officers to now an allocated 105 officers. However, due to an imposed managed savings of $1.2 million, we currently have funding available for about 97 sworn officers. This reduction has had an impact on our traffic unit, investigative unit, and proactive crime suppression overall. Although we do not have as many people as we once had, I am very proud of all of our personnel. Each of them are working very hard and are dedicated to delivering the best possible service to the community. When funding is available and we are able to hire to our allocated strength, I plan on adding traffic officers, detectives, patrol officers, and I would also like to create a crime impact team which would be responsible for targeting specific problems and issues affecting the quality of life of our residents and businesses. Additionally, I would like to be able to hire one additional administrative position, either a captain or a lieutenant, to increase oversight in many areas of the department that are now have expanded responsibilities over the years. At this time, we currently have 2 captains and 6 lieutenants managing 170 employees. This is the exact same number of administrators that the department had in 1969, when there were a total of 81 total employees by the police department. This additional position would also help in the succession planning within the department. Customer service. Customer service is very important to me and is one of our department's core values. The expectation is for officers to treat people as they would want to be treated. We want to ensure that when we are called by the public, we respond quickly and have the knowledge and resources to resolve their problems when we get there. We're currently researching the feasibility and cost to outfit our patrol units with Narcan and automatic defibrillator devices to enhance the public safety, because often the police department is on scene prior to the paramedics. Narcan is a drug that can immediately reverse the effects of an opioid overdose, which is very common today. And the AEDs can be used during possible heart attacks. On Monday, March 5th, the police department will begin a new Citizens Academy. This is a very popular program which allows residents to get a true perspective of the inner workings of the department. And I think this is really a good community police bridge. It allows people to see what we really do, to get to know us as individuals, not just as a department. Homeless and transient issues. With the City Council's approval of 2 additional police officers, a homeless outreach and park enforcement team has been deployed to assist homeless individuals in obtaining resources and to ensure enforcement of all laws. The mission of the HOPE team is to provide an enhanced level of safety for our residents and businesses by addressing criminal activity citywide. These officers work in conjunction with code enforcement, community services, public works, and our patrol officers to assist the homeless in providing resource options and for us to enforce all laws. This morning, our HOPE team partnered with Los Angeles County Homeless Task Force to work on issues in the area of Azusa and Amar, specifically for encampments. In the 3 months that HOPE has been deployed, they have completed 89 field interview cards, which are contacts with homeless. They've removed 37 encampments. They've made 5 arrests. They've conducted 128 park and business checks and completed extra patrols of these areas. This includes assisting business owners in understanding laws and everyone's rights and how they can better help us help them. They have also provided resource and service cards to 166 individuals. Traffic. We all know that traffic is an issue in the city. The construction of the IS-10 freeway continues to put pressure on our east-west side streets as commuters look for alternative ways to get around traffic on the freeway. Additionally, the closure of on and off ramps also is a factor in this increased surface traffic, as commuters have to travel much further to be able to enter the freeway and when they exit, traverse to their residences. There are now many phone apps that also kind of complicate it because they compound the problem by directing commuters to surface streets to bypass freeway traffic, looking for the shortest and quickest routes. At one time, our traffic unit had 1 sergeant, 1 corporal, and 8 traffic officers assigned to it. Currently, we have 1 corporal and 2 traffic officers. I have reinforced with our entire department that traffic enforcement is a responsibility of all patrol officers, not just the traffic unit. I appreciate the effort by all of our patrol officers as they have increased the amount of traffic stops from October 9th through December 31st by over 1,400 traffic stops as compared to the same time frame in 2016. The traffic enforcement by all officers will assist the traffic unit with working specific problem areas of the city. In 2017, our police department conducted 19,064 traffic stops, which is an average of 52.2 a day, an increase of approximately 2,500 from 2016 and almost 5,000 from 2015. Of the 19,064 traffic stops, 4,481 citations were issued, and 12,884 advisals were given, and the rest of them resulted in either arrest or other dispositions. The department's workload. The department continues to see an increase in incidents handled. In 2017, the department handled 78,586 incidents, an average of 214 per day. In 2016, the department handled 74,178 with an average of 203 per day. So from 16 to 17, we increased 4,408 incidents. In 2015, going back 2 years, the department handled 70,834. So in that 2-year period, we've increased 7,752 incidents, which is an average of 21 incidents per day. So our officers are very busy. Crime statistics for 2017 through November show that there were no homicides in 2017. which is outstanding. We had 4 in 2016. Burglaries are down 8%. Robberies are up 20%, from 115 to 138. Auto thefts are down 27%. Thefts are down overall 10%. And assaults are down almost 16%. And we've seen an increase in the arrest for weapons violations, which are up 35%. Our response times have remained the same over the last 2 years for Priority 1 calls, approximately 5 minutes and 38 seconds. A Priority 1 call is a life-threatening emergency. Priority 2 and Priority 3 calls, which are non-life-threatening, have increased by 3 minutes and 1 minute, respectively. And each of those are approximately 25 minutes on an average for response time. One of the biggest increases we have seen as a department is the on-scene time, which is the amount of time spent on a call once we get there. Last year, just on the Priority 1 calls, our on-scene time increased just over 34 minutes per call. So these calls are holding our officers at the location a little bit longer, which are partially responsible for driving up the response times overall. In 2017, the department had 2,116 Priority 1 or life-threatening calls. Recruitment and retention. The department continues the recruitment process for officers and dispatchers, and finding qualified candidates continues to be a challenge, with a state average of over 100 applications needed to hire 1 police officer. We are recruiting both lateral and new officers to assist in short-term and long-term planning for attrition due to retirements within the department. And also, it is important to me to further develop our police explorers as a candidate pool, as they have a West Covina connection and knowledge of the department. So not just for police officers, but for other duties within the department, whether it's community service officers or dispatchers. And we're looking at starting some different programs that would assist them in moving forward in their career paths. Our narcotics enforcement team is doing an outstanding job. We have 8 participating agencies from surrounding departments that assist us. And in the last 18 months, West Covina officers, along with allied agencies working major narcotics cases, have seized over 411 kilos of cocaine, which is over 900 pounds, 36 kilos of heroin, which is almost 80 pounds, 547 pounds of methamphetamine, 18 pounds of ecstasy, with a total street value of the seized drugs at over $126.5 million. The narcotics team also seized 26 firearms. So every day, their job is very dangerous. They're encountering armed individuals. Code enforcement. The main focus of our code enforcement is to work with homeowners and businesses to gain compliance. The police department will look at the feasibility of adding additional personnel to the 2-person team. And this can either be accomplished with full-time, part-time, or volunteer positions based on funding availability. We also currently have 1 intern assigned to code enforcement, and that intern is primarily assigned to administrative tasks, which free up the other 2 officers to be in the field doing what they need to do. We continue to have an outstanding volunteer program. We have for many, many years. We will begin using our volunteers in other roles other than just out in the field. So we're going to look at bringing them into our detective bureau and our training office to streamline administrative procedures and increase customer service. The police department continues the recruitment process for volunteers to expand the existing program. Last year, our volunteers worked a combined total of almost 8,000 hours, which is equivalent to 4 full-time positions. So they're just doing an outstanding job. And to be quite honest, we couldn't deliver the customer service that we do without our volunteers. Something would have to give. Technology. The police department is continually looking at opportunities in technology to assist us in reducing workload and becoming more efficient. In some cases, though, technology also creates increased workload and administrative oversight, which is taxing on existing personnel. To conclude, I would like to again thank all members of the police department for the job they do every day. I would also like to thank the community for their continued support, which makes our job much easier and more meaningful. Policing is a partnership between the police department and the community's support allows us to be more effective. I want to again thank the City Council and City Manager for allowing me to serve the city and for your support of public safety. This concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Toma?
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for that report. I enjoyed, appreciate that very much. One question on some of the stats, are those available generally? Can you tell, I know we have stats on the website, maybe you can tell people where they can find them, but I know there's often a lag in terms of the accumulation stats. So can you tell us and the public what stats are available if they are curious to see crime figures in West Covina in particular?
Well, and actually, that's one of the issues I'm looking at. We have had a lag. Unfortunately, the last stats that are available are the 2014, 2015. Again, part of the administrative oversight. Due to an illness, long-term illness, our person that handles that, they will be back pretty soon. And all of the stats pretty much that I've given tonight will be available on the website. We want to make that more transparent.
I appreciate that, thank you. And then the other thing is, I think the stats are very good, but they're only as good as our ability to compare them, like as compared to what. So just keep that in mind in terms of like some of the things instantly, homicides, you can sort of make an instant judgment about what that means. But some of these other stats where there's larger numbers, it's helpful like you did sometimes as compared to previous years, sometimes as compared to nearby jurisdictions, that kind of stuff. So it gives some context for understanding where we are. So I just want to put that out there for you in terms of education for us and for the public with respect to statistics. But I do appreciate it very much. Thank you.
And also just real quick, the robbery stats obviously have increased. In part, that's a little bit attributable to technology. So now we have the apps on the phones, either Craigslist or OfferUp, and criminals use those type of apps to commit crimes. So we're seeing more cases where people agree to meet with each other to buy a specific item, and that person's robbed. So that's partly attributable to that increase in robbery stats.
Mr. Wu?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the first thing I want to commend you for 3 months working with you. I think you are an outstanding leader. I think the most important thing, each of our department need a good leader. Okay, good leader meaning you can have your department, have everybody follow your command and to serve our city, okay, protect and serve. I think it's very important. I think for these 3 months, I work with you, I talk to you so many times, and you always answer the phone, you always pick up the phone, and so I want to thank you for that. But a couple of issues I want to discuss with you. Okay, sure. I think we talk about when we have a one-on-one, how to enforce, how to improve the customer service. Right. Okay, and then I think customer service comes from two sides. Okay, two ways. Okay, meaning one, we can understaff. Okay, I understand we have only 105 compared with similar size of a city, for example, Pasadena, 135, okay, thousand of population. They have almost 250 to 300 police officers, and we only have 105. So we really, okay, not enough. So meaning they work a lot of overtime. So maybe they're stressed. So how you, even they stress out for their job, how can you do the scheduling and at the same time, okay, have our police officer, when they pull over our resident, when they show up for some issue, and they understand the customer service?
It's a great question, and this is something I'm going to start with addressing tomorrow. We're doing in-service training for our department, so January typically is the opportunity for the chief to address the state of the department to the entire department. So I get an opportunity to address our entire department. It's broken up between tomorrow, Friday, and next Monday, so I'll be able to address every person. And the things that I'm going to do is to make sure that we have very clear expectations, to talk about the core values, which community service or customer service, community responsiveness is number one. So looking at different ways, making sure that when we leave any type of call that people understand what we did, that they have a clear understanding of what we can do long-term to explain our actions anytime. So maybe we need to slow down a little, not just hurry off to the next call, but we need to leave people with an understanding of, what we can do for them. Again, by adding volunteers to the Detective Bureau, this is going to allow us to do more follow-up with people, residents that are victims of crimes already, so that they understand where their case is, what is being done, whether it's being worked, whether more information is needed. And we can put that personal touch with that case and call people, find out, do you have any more info? Maybe their neighbors have video that they've come forward with, and we can direct them specifically to the detective that's handling that case. So, those expectations are going to be made clear. We're going to talk about, how those kind of translate down the line, too. So when officers want to promote, when they want to look at specialized assignments, those core values are going to be looked at. What they do every day, their effort when they come to work is going to be weighed in those decisions, and they're going to understand that.
Very good. I think it's very important because not only the staff represent the city, the police officer represent the city too. So when the resident call the police officer, they show up for their issue, they really want to, be sympathized by their issue. Right. Okay, so I think the treat with courtesy and treat with care, I think this is very important for when you get robbed and you're so worried and the police officer show up in timely manner and how to kind of concern. I think that first thing will come them down. I think the resident will be thinking about the city, the police officer is doing a good job. Second thing, regarding the traffic, I think traffic is a major issue we have. Last year, just from my record, I think we have a 13 fatality in our city.
Correct.
And this, I don't think it's acceptable. It's unacceptable. It's just too many deaths, too many accidents. It's all the places in our city. So how do you enforce, this traffic and to make sure that our residents, outside people visit our city, obey the traffic law, so we don't have to continue have accident all the time?
We're back on. So again, that's part of the expectation. I think we were relying a little bit too much on only our traffic officers before to enforce the laws. So making it important that all officers, all patrol officers in their free time, that's a focus, that they understand that it's a community problem. I've had discussions with the city manager in regards to realigning our traffic office, to dedicating a specific sergeant to have direct oversight over that unit. I'm also going to look at the feasibility of bringing civilian personnel, possibly a community service officer, into that unit to help take some of the traffic accident investigations away from our motor units, and their time can be better utilized in enforcing the traffic rather than being tied up on paperwork at accident scenes.
Very good. I think enforcement is very important. If you can have a manpower coming out, and try to enforce. And recently I get pulled over. I'm very happy. When he pulled me over at a Garvey the day before Christmas, and I thank him. I say, thank you so much. Somebody pulled me over. Finally, we somebody doing the job. It's very important. So I thank him, because that is the problem we have recently. We just don't have this couple of years. We don't see too many patrol cars. And they have a patrol car and they will pull people over. So meaning I have to better to stop sign and stop full stop. So in that way, people were aware of that. So next, I want to go quickly so my colleague can do it. Burglary. We have increased more than 20%. So with this 20% of burglary, how can we reduce? Maybe with patrol, I don't know, we have enough manpower to do this, or how can we reduce crime? Because, I think all the residents complaining about is most of this, the people breaking their home, they come home, and this has become a major issue for our residents. And the next thing I want to go quickly so you can answer all at the same time. Co-enforcement, since this belongs to your department, how can we make West Covina beautiful again? Because you see so many houses in their front yard, they're obsolete, and we don't have any people to at least give them a warning, say, would you please clean up your front yard. We need to make sure, okay, compared with other city, make sure people, our resident or people rent a house, make sure their front yard is nice and beautiful, so at least clean. So don't have trash, okay, junk car, park over there forever. I think that's all going to our code enforcement.
Okay, so to address the first question regarding burglaries, actually our 2017 statistics, we were down 8% in burglaries. So some of those burglaries were attributable to specific crews that were coming out from areas not even in West Covina. They were targeting areas in the San Gabriel Valley. There's been multiple task forces that have worked on those crews, taking down a lot of them. And so those have really slowed down. You know, and obviously in the free time, our officers need to be in the residential areas, you know, patrolling the streets, you know, to have that high visibility to continue with that suppression. Code enforcement, like I said, you know, to me it was important to put an intern in there to help. One, you know, it's no cost to the city and the department, and to free up our 2 code enforcement officers to be actually able to be on the street more, so they're not bogged down with the paperwork that typically ties them up in the office. So as we can, different funding sources become available, I would be interested in either adding additional code enforcement officers, either part-time or full-time. I think there's an option for both. And, you know, obviously part-time may be more affordable. We can have better coverage so that we can spread it out, that we can do things on the weekend also when homeowners are home during the day and we can have direct contact with them.
Okay, very good. I want to thank you for your genuine answers, and I want to wish you the best. Okay, I think with your leadership, I think we are going to turn West Covina around with safe and protection for our residents. They have confidence in our police department. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, first I want to make clear, you know, since age of 17 and all my life here, I've never been happy to be pulled over by a West Covina police officer. So, no offense, I've never thanked one either, I don't think, not over the pullover. And I've never been part of those advisals, so I don't know how those stats, how those are compiled. I've never gotten an advisal, I've always gotten the ticket, but I guess that's just me. I have a question about the data that you talked about here, because there's been discussion about, you know, AB 109 and the redefinition of a lot of felonies to misdemeanors, and how that affects the crime stats as we compare them. Because as you know, officers cannot arrest people for a misdemeanor they didn't see. And so when felonies are downgraded to misdemeanors, you know, that changes all those kinds of stats. And so how are the stats, I don't know, have you looked at that? I mean, how can we compare these stats with just a few years ago, since the state has managed to redefine some of these things?
Yeah, and I haven't actually compared those kind of stats. You know, I have been talking to the other chiefs, you know, just to get an idea, you know, across other cities, how that impacts. I have a lot of family members that are in retail, and I've been told that now, as far as retail, a lot of the merchants just choose not to even report petty thefts, so anything under $950. Because they know, one, they don't want to put their store security in harm's way, or they don't want to take on the liability of arresting people. They'd rather just write it off as a loss instead. So I think the stats are definitely skewed by the amount of calls that we're getting, especially from our retail merchants. We used to get a lot more calls from the mall, from Eastland, regards to those, and I think we definitely have seen a drop-off to that. Also with narcotics, a lot of them being dropped down from a felony to a misdemeanor, that's problematic as well. So that's definitely going to skew the stats, and I think it'll take a little bit of time before we can almost establish a new baseline to really, you know, see how things move in the future.
And, you know, so in reality, I mean, this last couple of years, we can't really count on our stats then to see how things are going up or down. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's clear we can't have confidence in them if the definitions have changed the reporting of different crimes to people.
I would agree with that. I think in some cases we obviously can with robberies. I think those remain consistent, burglaries and auto thefts. But some of the other crimes, larcenies and everything, are definitely going to be skewed by the new laws and everything.
Yeah, burglaries have the $950 threshold too, right?
No, burglaries would be entering a residence.
Oh, if they enter a residence, they
Yeah,
don't.
so there's no threshold on
Yeah, because I know
dollar
there's some
value.
criminals I think can go on Price is Right. You know, they can figure out, they know exactly what's $950, and they can get out. If the stats we don't have confidence in, but I was going to try to figure out how you use stats to decide what the department focuses on. But I know these stats that we talked about, some of them we can't have complete confidence in. But how do you use data to decide what police officers do?
Well, a lot of it, it's not
prioritize,
just the raw data, it's information from our crime analysts. So we're looking for patterns within the city so that we can better deploy resources to areas that are hit a little bit harder, or if we can develop a pattern. We also get a lot of bulletins from allied agencies and regarding crime patterns from outside of the city. So, you know, there's no borders for criminals, and, you know, they move around the San Gabriel Valley. So it's important that we share that information, and that crime analysis person plays a big role in sharing that, putting out wanted flyers, any information so that we can connect the dots, keeping that communication open.
You know, because there's been a lot of talk about code enforcement and traffic enforcement. You know, at the same time, I know there's, you know, I think people are concerned about lots of crimes. You know, everybody's concerned about the crime that they see right next to them or whatever, or they have the fear of. And, you know, on the traffic stuff, you know, I know every time we pass an ordinance, and I usually complain about passing the ordinance, you know, I'm told that officers have discretion, you know, which is true, they do. You know, although we shouldn't pass bad ordinances just because, you know, you have discretion. But, you know, for example, I'm concerned about some of the corridor that you mentioned where our traffic problems are, which is really a Caltrans issue, you know, their ability to get that part of the freeway done. And so, like, I know that, because I heard about it, that, you know, officers were out taking parked cars around the apartment buildings and stuff. But you know, I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, I feel bad for anyone who lives on Garvey because they lost that whole street parking, you know, and that has caused problems because it has shoved everything down into neighborhoods where they normally wouldn't park. And so how do you decide that, okay, we're going to go ahead and, you know, ticket everybody on Garvey, you know, when those are the people that are the most impacted by Caltrans, or how do those decisions get made?
Some of them are based on our patrol officers finding problem locations. We do have cadets that are assigned to our traffic unit to, again, help alleviate our full-time officers from that burden of parking tickets. So they go out and they look for specific areas. A lot of it is complaint-based, and we react, and we will step up the enforcement when we get complaints from residents. Because, you know, some people are more tolerant of issues, and so we try to balance the need, and, you know, especially with the construction and everything, to displace people, for us to go out and actively enforce that. If nobody's complaining about it, we think that's where the discretion does come in, and, you know, that we can better serve the residents by, you know, staying away unless we're needed. So there's a balance there.
Okay, and I know you and I have talked about the Narcan thing, so I know La Habra does it, and the LA County Sheriff's do it, and I do think that's important. I mean, I know people that have been saved because of Narcan, and I know people that I've been at their funerals with, you know, because they overdose. And so, you know, it's something that I know a lot about. That I appreciate the efforts that you're making in that, and I'm probably going to have a heart attack too, probably anyways, right? Too. So the defibs too. So I think that is something where we need to go as far as. Because you are the first responders. For example, the car on Michelle Street, you know, with the 3 individuals where one had overdosed, you know, when the call came in, there's strange people in a car, right? So you came first. You came before the firefighter paramedics came. You guys were the first ones there. So you are sometimes the first opportunity to do that when time is of the essence. I guess do you see any other impacts that from AB 109 and Prop 47 and Prop 57 as far as the post-release supervision stuff you want to comment on? Other than you can't trust the stats, other than that.
Well, you know, I think at this time, I don't even know that we have felt the full impact of this, and I think it continues every day. some of the things that we're doing, we're looking at, with our reduced personnel, we're looking at ways to deploy our people in task force, because those task force become force multipliers. So we have a officer assigned to, it's called TRAP. It's run by LA County Sheriffs. They specifically look at vehicle thefts, and they track the higher levels. So not just the person that's taking the vehicle, but where those vehicles go. They get sold? Is it more of a ring? Those type of things. And so being able to have a group of 7 or 8 individuals as being a member of TRAP to handle our problems, they're able to be deployed into resources where our patrol officers necessarily don't have the time to look for that long-term solution, and we can use that task force to do things. So we're always looking for those opportunities where we can participate and get a lot back to the community and the residents through those partnerships.
Mr. Warshaw?
Thank you. And thank you very much for this report, Chief. I've got a couple of questions. I truly believe in community policing, and I'm glad to see that you're continuing with the Citizens Academy, and I strongly encourage more of our residents to go through that academy to learn how our police department operates throughout the city of West Covina. With that being said, you didn't mention anything about a couple of items that go along with community policing. One being the Neighborhood Watch program. What ideas do you have of making any changes or trying to get more neighborhoods to start their own Neighborhood Watch? And also our lieutenants, as far as they're each assigned an area so that depending on where West Covina residents live, they can call a particular lieutenant who's responsible for that area. I know some of the lieutenants are very good on being on next door, holding community meetings. Do you plan on expanding that, or what are your thoughts?
Sure. And the service area lieutenant concept is really, I think, done well. It really does give the residents an avenue to be able to talk directly to a staff member in the department, somebody that's going to be able to deploy the resources to take care of their problem. So one of the things we're going to be talking about at this month's staff meeting is I'm bringing back what we used to call a directed patrol form. And it's a tracking system to be able to look at community issues and hold the service area lieutenants more accountable for deploying the resources, the outcomes, and then making sure that we get information back to the residents. And I think being busy and everything, that's one of the things that I've always suffered. And I think the residents deserve to know exactly what was done. A lot of times they feel like nothing was done. They didn't see us out there. So to give feedback, whether it's through email, whether it's through phone calls, to have that personal touch, getting back to them. Here was your problem. Here's what we did. Here's the number of hours we expended on it, and here was the resolution to it. That's important. So with that, the service area lieutenants will also be doing more outreach. Neighborhood Watch has just gone a little bit different direction over the years. Some of it, I think, is just societal. Some people, back in the 60s and 70s, everybody knew their neighbors, You knew them by their first name. Now, not so much. People come home, they go in after work, and, they don't have that bond. So I think it's starting with the service area lieutenants, and I think the offer can always be made through that avenue, that if your specific street wants a meeting, that we will host it anytime. We will make ourselves available to do that, and have the residents get that together, let us know when they want us there, and we'll make sure we have our personnel there. We always have time for that.
Thank you very much.
If I, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, add a couple of items to Chief Taylor's comments. Last week, City Council adopted its goals and objectives, and in there was 2 additional community meetings that we'll be holding over the course of the next several months. One is, as the mayor alluded to, AB 109 and Prop 47. The city has taken a position to support what's called the Taking Back Our Communities initiative, which is a variety of cities in San Gabriel Valley have started this program and is now reaching out to other cities within California to try and address either legislation and also educate folks what they can better do to better protect themselves from everything from home invasion, robberies, and other things. So we will have a town hall meeting on that, as well as another town hall meeting to duplicate what we did this past year on active shooter training as well for residents. So those are a couple of things that the council has adopted, and we'll be doing that in the next several months.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me, Chief, and I don't know how to do this. There are some places that I notice where the local police department does an excellent job of communicating about people that have been early released that have committed crimes. Sometimes I'll post those, I'll see those, like there's one in Reading where the guy's been arrested 57 times since 2010. And he looks like an angel too when you see all his tattoos. But, and so I don't know how hard is it to get that information. I know, for example, when you were involved in the manhunt of the person that, had committed the assault and robberies and so forth, that was an early release individual. How do we get those kind of stats that we know how many people we're dealing with that have been released under these various laws? How can we get that kind of information to actually educate the community?
Well, I think that's just a component that we'll have to add to the website. I think that's probably the best way to get that information out there. We can have, I know a lot of cities have a section specifically on their website that are wanted posters. They're, different, types of crimes that are specific to patterns that they will put on the website to try to get more community involvement, have people, provide tips, those type of things. So I think that would be my idea of the avenue, and we can definitely work with our training office and get something added to the website.
That'd be great. So it's not that hard to find that out, I guess, when in dealing with that information.
No, it can be tracked.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to tonight's agenda. For the rest of the agenda, or we don't do public comments first, I guess, right? Okay, as a reminder on public comments, we take people that circle 1 minute first, people that circle 3 minutes next, and then those that have none or going 5 at the end. And first we have Alice Nichols. And or you can fill out the orange slip too if you just want to register yes or no on something too. I don't have those, but yeah. Alice Nichols? Is Alice Nichols here? Oh, there you go. And that'll be followed by David Ito, I think. Ito? Okay, you'll be after her. You can start walking your way down, but you'll be up after her. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, I just wanted to talk to you about the ambulance service. Ambulance service is extremely beneficial, especially to the seniors. Just to illustrate, last Thanksgiving, my husband, who is a veteran, he fell, and we needed to call the ambulance in order to take him to the hospital. So I urge you to consider to keep that service for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. David, is it Hido or Hido? Hido, yeah, and then followed by John Shoemaker.
It's an honor to be here tonight. Well, as a longtime West Covina resident, probably almost part of the history, it goes back to 1955. And more recently, within the last 10 years, multiple medical problems, specifically myself, but also my wife and our former, I'm sorry, forgive me, I get emotional over it. My mother-in-law, who passed away recently, who lived with us, on multiple occasions, we were able to call upon the West Covina Paramedic Services, and as I'm sure many people know, that insurance generally will not pay anymore for the lion's share of the ambulance service, so it can be very expensive. I know myself personally, from 2010 forward, when I had my first major operation, until within the last year or so, I personally been picked up a minimum of 3 times from the service. My mother-in-law saw probably at least 2 or 3 times, and ultimately when she passed away, they were the first responders on the scene. And I'm quite passionate about, as the previous resident spoke, about us retaining that service. I think it's of a major benefit to the community. I know I speak for not just myself, but for another resident that lives down the street from me. They couldn't be here tonight, but his wife suffered a stroke within the last year, and they were very quickly on the scene. So I think that all things considered, particularly for those of us on a fixed income, the service is something that's very, very beneficial, very affordable, and that the quality of the care that we get from these men and their general public demeanor is outstanding. So I would really hate to see the service lost, and I would genuinely urge the council to truly consider retaining it, and you would have, I believe, a better community for if we, and would be a sadder state if we were to lose them. Thank you very much for listening to me tonight.
John Shoemaker, followed by Elsie Messon.
About the ambulance service, would it be possible to direct me, or if you could send me an email about what the rules are? I'm not quite sure what it's for. You know, who gets charged, when you get charged, why you get charged, those types of things. Because I've actually known of people who did not want the paramedics called because they were afraid they were going to get charged for something. And, you know, I'll disseminate it where I can, or direct people, because, you know, obviously you don't want somebody to try to drive themselves to the hospital when they're having a heart attack, because that not only can harm them, but harm somebody else, or whatever the case may be. Just so people are clear that, you know, okay, there could be a benefit to buying this insurance or the fee, but at the same time, you know, what are the instances? Because $70 or whatever the case may be for some people can be a lot of money, you know, and that way they understand what they're doing and they make a good decision on it. You know, like I said, I'm not even quite sure what the rules are or aren't in those instances. Just a little quick comment when talking about our police force, considering the amount of people they have, I think they try to do a good job and are pretty successful at what they try to do. It's just, you know, there's certain points where there's manpower or person power, or people that you need to do things to get it accomplished. The only thing I do point out is every so often the city will say, well, if you look at Pasadena, if you look at Burbank, that they have much larger departments and they're the same population. Well, probably from about 7 in the morning to 7 at night, or I should say 7 at night to 7 in the morning, we are the same population. After that time, I bet we might stay the same if we don't decline, but I'll bet you Pasadena and Glendale, you know, Pasadena, Burbank, and those areas, maybe double or triple. You know, so it's not an apples to apples when you just look at population, but the businesses that are there. And the other thing that I was kind of surprised, and I think Mayor Pro Tem Johnson can remember this one, when the chief said that something hadn't been updated since 2014-15. And I remember looking for some things out on the internet, on the website, that had magically disappeared. And when I called, at the time, Councilman Johnson about it, and he tracked down the info, it was, well, we took some time to remove things from the website. And I hear that we have time to remove stuff, but we don't have time to add stuff. You know, again, that's just, you know, it goes back to the thing I talk about, you know, the city where you pay more and get less. If I have time to take it off, I should have time to put stuff on that's more recent, you know, if you're going to do that. And those are the types of things that there might be perfectly valid reasons, but it just, again, the optics, it just looks bad that somebody would take time to go get rid of budgets from 2004, 2005, 2006, whatever the case may be, but can update statistics that people might want to look at that are more recent. So, again, if we can just do a little bit more of looking at those, I'd appreciate it. And again, just I'd like some on that. And as a lot of you know, there's email strings and everything else that go around. We'll get it out to people so everybody has the right thing. And maybe it'll generate some more business. You know, in that sense of people saying, hey, this is a beneficial program, I want to utilize it. Thank you.
Elsie Nessman, followed by William Elliott. Welcome back, William.
Mayor, council, staff, and everyone here tonight and watching at home. My name is Elsie Messman, a resident of West Covina. As everyone here tonight is aware, that after oral communications, the city manager gets the last word and we can't respond. I'm here today to respond, like it or not. I would like to go back to the December 19th meeting regarding the stairway enclosure. First, I want to remind everybody that 3 council members voted for a 4-day work week and 10-hour days. This city hall is older than each individual council member, including the city manager and staff. It has been safe for years and years with a police department right next door and 2 elevators for staff to use. Yet the council approved this enclosure, costing the city almost $90,000. If council would have approved a 5-day work week and 8-hour days, maybe we could have saved almost $90,000. I don't think much thought went into this. After all, it's not the staff's money, and sooner or later you have to exit those stairs. They do not lead to your home. I would rather see what's ahead of me and not see what's going on behind and someone grab either me or my purse. Staff must be working awful late, as I don't think the homeless could come this close to the police station without being reported to them. My next comment is at the meeting regarding the community service director and also the assistant city manager, and now on the negotiating committee. Chris Freeland stated that the city was saving money. There hasn't been an assistant manager for years, and now he needs one. If this is the case, why are we paying her for a community service director? One person doing 3 different important jobs, and is she qualified for all 3? I have worked for over 45 years, and it looks like he's showing favoritism, giving one person more money, and then she is the one that goes to Japan, costing us, the city, $2,000, and she's also seen golfing with Mr. Freeland. Not only is she getting more money, she's accumulating comp time. We had 2 people on the negotiating committee, now we have 4. What this city needs is 2 good negotiators with experience that can say no once in a while. And I also want to thank the 3 council members for putting the Glendora project on hold, as I can't see this project bringing any money to the city right now. And it's about time the staff started bringing new business to this city and stopped spending money we don't have. Councilwoman Wu is trying to promote the city without city funds. Keep up the good work, as I don't think anyone else is making any effort. Thank you.
William Elliott, followed by Gary Gelino.
Good evening. Before I forget, I want to give some support to Councilman Wu for his night market idea. I think that's brilliant. West Covina could build a thriving night market that would draw people from all the surrounding communities, young people, generate business for monetary gain for local businesses. It would help the city's image, I think. It would be a great thing. Maybe we could even have it at that deserted piece of property where the theater is, where the restaurants come in, they stay 3 months, and then they're gone. So kudos to Mr. Wu for that idea. He's constantly innovating and coming up with new, fresh ideas for the city, and he's to be commended for that. I'm going to shock everybody tonight, and I'm I'm not going to talk about anything on the agenda. I can't believe that I have a random Tuesday night off that I can actually sit and hear the chief make a presentation like he did. Oh, by the way, Mr. Mayor, congratulations on your new job. Haven't been here since you ascended to the mayor's job. And I've never met the chief, and I've never even heard him talk, but I came prepared tonight really not to like him at all. And he surprised me a little bit. I went to his swearing-in ceremony, and I saw him for the first time, and I thought, oh my God, we got rid of a cadaver for an octogenarian. And I came prepared not to like him, and I'm not in love with him, but I can tell he has his heart in his job at least. And I would like to encourage the chief to reconsider his position on concealed carry, because even though I never talked to him or inquired about this, I know his position. It's kind of common knowledge. And, I'm really kind of ashamed of the city council for hiring him, because you knew he was anti-concealed carry. You knew he was against the Second Amendment, every one of you. And I'm not even sure of the vote, and I'm not even sure I want to know what the vote was to confirm him. But he should have not been considered without being vetted about the resolution that was voted on by this city council. The majority of this council voted to redefine good cause for concealed carry, and it falls on deaf ears because Sacramento was so corrupt it took away our local control of issues like that. And so, just as a side note, at the chief swearing in, I thought it was really inappropriate that he did a full body hug on the judge that swore him in. That would get somebody fired at work for sexual harassment. And I think it was a poor example, a poor way to start his tenure as chief. I have high hopes for him. I hope he's not just going to be someone who occupies the chief's chair like the last guy we had, who spent most of his time going to conventions and to seminars and to chiefs association meetings. And the other half of his time, he spent looking like Skeletor walking around with a walker. And I don't know, did he come into the chief's job with that condition? Just really was poor reflection on the city. I'm so glad he's gone. I hope that, I have high hopes for other things in the city too. I want to talk about public safety real quick. Mr. Wood talked about the fatalities in the city. We need LED stop sign at major intersections. Lark Ellimer said it's horrible. It's bad. We have the luxury of a LED crosswalk by the school. And the music to my ears is a motorcycle police siren in the school zone in the morning. I want to jump up and down. I love it. I want to go out and watch, because we don't have enough of that. And this city council or the city manager or the chief, whoever decides on it, whatever money we get, we should devote to traffic enforcement. We need a motorcycle officer in every school zone every week, at least one officer for at least pickup or drop-off times. I never met a police officer who didn't tell me privately that he was for concealed carry. But, apparently Mr. Taylor is going to be exactly a carbon copy on this issue, as was his predecessor, as was his predecessor, as was his predecessor, all the way back. Concealed carry in California is historically corrupt, and I'm really ashamed that the city council members who voted to redefine good cause for concealed carry applications by law-abiding citizens was somehow just forgotten about when they confirmed this guy as chief. Why didn't we only consider applicants who were pro-concealed carry, who supports the Constitution? What a novel idea.
Gary.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'll keep it quick. I just want to say that I find it very disturbing when a city councilman says that he likes to be pulled over. Most people, when you get pulled over, it ruins your day. And if you get a moving violation, that's going to cost you thousands of dollars just in the insurance. So I just want to make a note of that. And then I also want to talk about the code enforcement issue that was brought up. For those of you who are wondering, code enforcement is why I started coming to these meetings back in 2013. And just a reminder, Back in 2013, the city decided to get overambitious with code enforcement and wanted to hire a bunch of people and give them vehicles to proactively drive around the city to look for things. And that was shot down by the residents. And, you know, I think everyone can agree that we don't want our neighbors to have, you know, lousy looking yards and cars parked in the grass and whatnot. But at the same time, we're supposed to be a free country. Now, I think it's up for debate as to whether or not for a free country. You can go to the airport and find out how free we are. You cannot pay your property taxes and find out how free we are. But if we are going to be a free country, you should have the freedom to be a slob. You should have the freedom to have tall grass. So if you guys try this code enforcement stuff again, more than likely the residents are going to come back, just like back in 2013, and say, no thanks. That's all. Thank you.
Wow.
Get to the quote. Get to the quote.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members and residents. You know, I've come up here in the past and kind of been chid a little bit for saying that I feel good. You know, I feel happy, I'm proud and all that, but I'm up here tonight to tell you that I'm not feeling that good. Based on the action that this council took or didn't take at Monday's special meeting and at your previous meeting regarding the Glendora Avenue revitalization project, I have concerns about the credibility of the council and the city going forward as far as the development community goes and the business community goes. Because for 2 years, more than 2 years, a majority of this council, usually a 4-to-1, voted to go forward and put its stamp of approval on the general plan update and the downtown plan, which included the revitalization of Glendora Avenue. This has been going on for a long time. The council was all for it until you're not. And I'm concerned that, you know, we're all business friendly, want to bring businesses here. That's, you know, what drives our economic engine. But to send a message to particularly the development people that who may want to rely on what this council is saying publicly, I think it may scare some of them because they got to spend money to do their research and development, whether or not they want to come to West Covina. And some of them may question and want to know whether your word is your bond, whether your vote can be trusted going forward. This concerns me. It also concerns me that staff received direction, received concise direction over and over again throughout the process to move forward with this. That was a lot of person hours. That was a lot of hours put forth by staff, put forth by residents, commissioners, throughout this entire process. Looking, as I said at the last meeting, looking for a finished product, looking for an end to the process, a positive end to the process. So my concern is one of credibility. And you know, I don't know what you're going to do in 6 months. I don't know what is going to possibly change in 6 months. I don't know. But the fact is that over the last couple of years, a very clear definition of what we wanted to do was out there and continually approved, again, pretty much on a 4-to-1 basis, Mr. Spence being the only one who was consistent in his opposition. But as recently as this past October, this time in a 3-to-2 vote, you voted to approve the downtown plan. That was just in October. And now here we are, we had another change of heart. So I just want to express my concern as we go forward. This city is in competition
with other cities to bring businesses here. And I think that our word has to mean something, our vote has to mean something to the business community as we go forward. Thank you.
Okay, that was our last speaker card. Anyone else wish to address us? Okay. Oh, man. JD, we'll go with you first then, since you get the jump on Eric over there.
Chief, I want to thank you. Your presentation tonight was a breath fresh air. Giving us the stats for what they're worth, that transparency I haven't seen since coming to City Council, and I've asked for it to you gentlemen numerous times and to your predecessors. So I want to thank the chief for having the valor to come up and disclose what the city police department is doing in terms of meeting its expectations and the vision that they have in meeting those expectations. I think that's a step in a positive direction. And I, as a resident in an area that's impacted by traffic, crime, and many of the ills that he described in his presentation, dearly thank you. Thank you.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I could have circled the 1 minute. I'll be real fast. My name's Eric Innermill, local business owner here with Craft Hill, West Covina. I just wanted to say real quick, last time I walked up here, I was excited. I congratulated you, but I really didn't get a chance to say thank you to Mr. Warshaw, because it was during your time that we were introduced, we got involved in this city. And I think it was through our initial conversations that got me interested in the politics of West Covina. So you can all point a finger at him. He's the reason I'm here so often. But thank you very much for everything you've done. I wanted to point out one thing I'd brought up before, and everybody always talks about the graffiti. I don't know if anybody knows the app for graffiti removal. It works incredibly well. So with the app, I could open it on my cell phone in the West Covina org website. I went in, I could put the address, the location. It gave me instant access to my camera to take a picture of it, put the notes in, and I got a follow-up email the following day saying it was resolved. I didn't believe it, so I went out back. Sure enough, literally within 24 hours, it had already been taken care of. So I think that's a great thing that you guys are doing. I encourage other people to learn about that and use it if you have issues with graffiti. The only other things I want to point out with Craft Hill West Covina, because the spring is upon us, we're coming out with our new spring menu items. So we'd love you all to come out and enjoy. And for those of you that have forgotten about it, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. We have a lovely Valentine's Day dinner. We'd love to see you for that as well. And on the Valentine's dinner, we also have a young performer who's affiliated with the high school music program that's going to be a solo guitarist and may sit down on the keyboard as well. So it won't be our common music, something a little nicer for date night. So please come enjoy us, support the local after-school program, and continue to support the students. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. City Manager. One more? I'm sorry. Please state your name, and then you got 5 minutes.
Lucas Purcell, resident. I'd like to thank the city for actually putting up those nice new LED lights at all the intersections. It really makes things a lot easier when you go up, and especially at night, there's a lighting change so you know there's an intersection. Hopefully that'll reduce the number of accidents near my home. But again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Mr. City Manager, do you want to address non-agenda items?
Absolutely. I'll just respond to this rather quickly. One of the residents asked about a little bit more information about the ambulance transport program, ambulance subscription program. We are going to talk about that tonight and have information, but it is available on our website, which is westcovina.org/ambulance, and it has information about that program. Another speaker said that we haven't had an assistant city manager. I know at least 20 years we have. We started off with Mr. Artie Fields. When I started here 17 years ago, he was assistant city manager. After that, Tom Bachman was assistant city manager, HR director, and finance director. He held all 3 positions. Mike Lee was assistant city manager and economic development director under Mr. Chung. And then, of course, I was city manager under Mr. Mock prior to accepting the job as city manager. So we have, assistant city manager before I became city manager. So for the last 20 years at least, we've had an assistant city manager. Regarding Mr. Elliott's comments, I do want to make sure that we share with folks that the City Council does not confirm the selection of the police chief, so there was not a vote at the City Council to do that. The decision solely is the responsibility of the city manager. So that was a decision that was made and approved by myself. City Council just had to approve the benefits and salaries that were offered to the police chief at that time. And that's it.
Any comments or questions from anyone? I just want to comment, currently the chief of police, because of an action that the chief auditor take, does not even accept permits, CCW permits, because he delegated that to the LA County Sheriff. And as you know, Bill, I'm going to see him on Friday morning, and I'll have the discussion again with him about CCWs, and I'll be happy to update you afterwards. Yeah, he loves me too. He loves me too. So, anyways, any other comments, questions? Okay, let's go. Anybody want to take any items off of consent? You had one, Mr. Toma? Which one?
Number 9 and 10.
Number 9 and what? 9 and 10. Okay, 9 and 10 are off. Anyone else?
I will say no on number 5.
Okay, you got that? No on number 5, and I'm a no on number 4 and number 5. So I'll repeat that too. Any others? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the consent items.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Toma and seconded by Mr. Warshaw to approve the consent agenda, deleting items number 9 and 10 from the consent, and recording no votes for myself on item 4 and 5, and a no vote for Mr. Wu on number 5. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? It's approved. Okay, item number 9. Mr. Toma, you pulled this?
Yeah, thank you. I have no specific question. It's just on these ROPS. I think it's helpful to get a little bit of a report, so I'd appreciate getting a staff report on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. What we're going to do is I'm going to make a brief report. If there's any specific questions, both our Economic Development Director, or Housing Manager, I should say, Pauline Morales, and our Acting Finance Director, Nicole Lugatoff, will answer any questions specific to the ROPS. For those of you who do not recall, with the elimination of redevelopment, one of the items is the unwinding of the former redevelopment agency, which is the responsibility of what we call a successor agency. The City Council serves as that successor agency, and so now annually we put a request into the Department of Finance of different charges or expenditures that are related to the former redevelopment agency that are still being incurred here by the city that we're seeking either prepayment on or reimbursement. So on the what's called the ROPS, it's called the Recognized Obligation Payment Schedule. So what that is, it's a payment schedule over the course of the whole year of expenditures related to the former redevelopment agency that either, like I said, is the city is either seeking reimbursement for or is asking for prepayment of. So that will include a variety of items, and I'll just kind of summarize some of those items. That includes former bonds that were issued by the former redevelopment agency. It will include former loan agreements that were in place between the city and redevelopment agency that were already been pre-approved. If you look at the attachment, there's kind of an Excel spreadsheet that's in white. Those are items that are being reimbursed or being sought for funding. For those of you at home who do have it as well brought up, there's items that are in red. Those items in red are items that are either going to be removed from future ROPS for consideration because either been paid off or they're not being sought for payment at this time. In addition, there's a variety of housing loans that were put in place between, or excuse me, that was taken on behalf of the city that need to be reimbursed through the ROPS. So the monies that come in for repayment are all part of what we call tax increment, which was funding source for former redevelopment agency. Whatever funds come in, they pay these obligations, and whatever funds are left over are then dispersed to different taxing entities. In addition to on here, we have some expenditures that are related to the former redevelopment agency as far as the unwinding operations, when maybe one of the items of this responsibility of the successor agency is the disposition of property that was formerly owned by the redevelopment agency. So folks remember what we call the AAA pad, basically the water tank properties, and also the properties that are under discussion with Singpoli for possible development just to the outside perimeter of the BKK landfill. The costs associated with the disposition of those properties are reimbursable to the city from the Department of Finance. And so that could be anything from staff time, attorney fees, consultants that need to be brought on board to look into the property, appraisals of the value of the property, public notices, and a variety of different items. So what we try to do as a city is look into the future and say these are items that we believe should be funded. We do have an opportunity to amend this over the course of the year in case there's expenditures that pop up that we weren't prepared for, and we can work with the Department of Finance on. There's also items on here that we've been told they will not pay for that we are still requesting that they pay for. Those include, for example, just recently this past ROP cycle, they have the state of California Department of Finance has said they are not going to reimburse cities for the pension costs of the former redevelopment agency employees. That had been something that up to this last ROPS period they were funding. And in my understanding is there are lawsuits that are pending up in Sacramento because of that action of the Department of Finance, as well as looking at legislative fix from our legislators. The reasoning the Department of Finance has stopped paying it is part of successor agencies are to unwind the operations redevelopment, so they want to have some sort of finite ending period when those successor agencies will all disappear throughout the state. If you have these pension obligations that are indefinitely going on for another 40 or 50 years or even longer, what you're going to see is that that doesn't give a finite date that the state wants to wrap up these operations a little bit sooner. So they're trying to find some solutions on that. In addition, the city still contends. We have what's called a community facilities district next door over at the Plaza West Covina that was established back in the 1990s. What that was, it was created a funding mechanism that says future sales tax and property tax as generated at the plaza as they improve would go towards bonds to pay for the upgrades they did over there, as well as the parking structures you see at the Plaza West Covina. And so what happened is there was a diversion of sales tax dollars to the city of West Covina that we as a city contest should have been coming to West Covina, and we actually had agreements in place saying that that reimbursement should come to the city. And unfortunately, the state has ruled that we estimate well over $30 million has been diverted from our coffers. And so we're still in the process of arguing that with the Department of Finance based on the leadership of our city council. And then in addition, you'll have some costs for staff for a variety of different issues and items. But then also if there's any costs associated with the bonds, those get reimbursed, like the letters of credit or any financial consultants as well. So I tried to provide a brief summary, but if there's specific items on here that you'd like to review, we'd be more than happy to do so.
Mr. Tillman?
Thank you. So the far right column is the actual total of the sums that we're asking for to be paid for this next fiscal year. Is that right? The column W?
There are two columns. So there's two different periods. There's 1819A, which is July through December of fiscal year 1819, and then there's column 1819B. So the payments come to us over a period of 6 months. Before, we had submitted 2 separate ROPs for every 6 months. As part of the streamlined process, the state of California now is requesting those once a year. So you'll see both periods on there now for that 1 year period.
And the Plaza West Covina issue that you're just talking about, that's the CFD tax increment pledge, the item number 9?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
So we are asking them to pay for the CFD
Absolutely.
and the PERS, right?
Correct. And one of the other items, if you recall, I apologize, I did miss one item that we had requested is there's maintenance that need to be done on the landfill property that's adjacent to the public property. For example, there's the retention basin for the stormwater up there, as well as fencing needs to separate successor agency property from the landfill, and they've continued to deny that as well. So we're working with our state lobbyists to try and get that resolved as well.
I think it's important to point out to the public on that. State agencies are telling us that those have to be maintained with certain things, and then the state agencies are telling us that they won't pay for it for the land that they had transferred to the successor agencies.
Right,
I mean, that's what's going on.
Right, just to expand what the mayor says. So the California Department of Toxics and Substances Control, which is abbreviated as DTSC, and Cal Recycle, both of those are environmental agencies have oversight of the landfill. Both those agencies are telling the city / the successor agency to make these improvements on successor agency property. So we get letters from those agencies that we submit to another state agency saying, we need to have these fixed, and Department of Finance, you need to allow this work to be done, and another state agency is saying no. So unfortunately, you have the left hand not talking to the right hand, and the city unfortunately gets stuck in between.
Mr. Wu?
Yeah, okay, is this the land we're talking about, is that we have to sell it based on, okay, so that's hypothetical, if we sell this property, so the liability no longer the city, right? This will be the investor or the builder, their liability. We don't have to take care anymore. They have to take care.
Once the property is transferred, no longer the responsibility of the city, that is correct. But until that time, it's our responsibility.
So how much we pay? How much we paying right now?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just want to add one caveat to that, and that is with respect to environmental liability, that doesn't go away.
So we still have to pay more?
Under state and federal law, environmental liability stays with you until either the state or the federal government, respectively, has dispensed with your liability in some way.
But based on the city manager talking about, okay, the cost right now, we have to eat it, but in the future, the cost will be transferred to the person purchase, okay, the entity purchase, right?
Yes, in theory, ongoing expenses like that would be transferred to a purchaser. However, long-term remediation of environmental liability could ultimately come back. Now, what we would hope to do is to seek indemnification with respect to that.
And what is the expenses right now, roughly?
I think for those two items, where it's about $100,000 for.
It was closer to 2.
Every year?
Sorry, I'm pulling it up. So for the remediation or the repair of the retention basin on the top deck, we're asking for approximately $200,000 or $195,000. That includes a retention basin and fencing that needs to be placed between the landfill and the successor agency, that you can't go between two properties, kind of protect the successor agency's liability as well.
So meaning this $200,000 is one time we have to build all those retaining, or this is annually cost?
I'm sorry, Mr. Councilman Wu. It's actually $75,000 for the retention and the fencing. The $195,000 is for the disposition cost for the BKK assets. So it includes all 6 assets that we're trying to dispose of.
And it is a one-time cost.
And it is a one-time cost.
We haven't done anything yet.
We have not been authorized by the Department of Finance. They have not authorized this funding. But as City Manager has mentioned, we have received letters from different regulatory agencies saying that it is in need of repair, and that there is a threat if we do not repair it, that there could be damage to the properties below, and then the successor agency would be liable.
Anything else? Mr. Toma?
That's fine. I'll move to adopt the resolution number 2018-02.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Mr. Toma and seconded by Mr. Warshaw to approve this item. Is there any objection to consent? Okay, it's approved. Item number 10. Mr. Toma, you pulled this?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I know we we made this decision back in 2015 with respect to the chargers, and that it comes from specific funds from SCA AQMD funds for the charge. What I'm wondering is, at this point, would the chargers come with the ability for us to charge for use of them? Because I know that the existing chargers that we have and around the city, they're used quite extensively, and they're pretty much always filled there. And I don't know if the way to regulate future demand, because it's only going to grow. I mean, the cost of these electric vehicles is coming down, and the range is getting much farther. It's going to be a huge demand. If you go to any of these, SCAG sessions or whatever, they talk about everything's moving to electric vehicles in the future. So will these ones that we're ordering have the ability for us to charge for use of them?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of Council. The electric vehicle charging stations that we will be installing as part of this project will have that ability to charge. So right now we haven't made that decision yet whether we will, but it can be done. It's using Bluetooth technology.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Warshaw?
Yeah, I have some questions on that. A couple items. Number one, Southern California Edison, less than 2 weeks ago, I think the beginning of this year, was just authorized to give some more grant monies for electric charging. This funding, the grants coming from AQMD, I think we should also be looking at going after some of that funding from Edison to install more. As Councilman Toma said, more and more people are going to electric. The other item that Mr. Toma brought up was the ability to charge, and I have some questions for these facilities. We don't own the Plaza at West Covina parking structure, yet we're installing the chargers. The plaza is not paying anything for that. If we decided that there should be a charge, I don't know who's supplying the electric. I don't know if that bill is going to the plaza or it's coming to the city. But I think that we need to put something in place that we get a portion of that money. The same thing with Big League Dreams. Now, we own that property. I think there's a split on electricity, if I remember correctly, for all utilities. I don't know if it is for actually putting that in there, but we should have the ability to charge for that and recoup some of our costs for that electricity. So I would like to make an amendment if we're going to approve this, that we put that into this award.
Okay, let's get all the questions asked first, and then we'll figure that out. Mr. Wu?
So my question would be, so basically, okay, when we install all this device or equipment, it doesn't cost anything for our general fund?
No, it's a grant from SCAQMD. And for the local match, we're using AB 2766, which is local subvention money coming from AQMD also.
So no matter how it exists about, okay, the beginning of the bid, okay, anything left over more, it won't go hit on our general fund, because a lot of time happen, okay, sorry, we have this grant, but the different $25,000, the city have to pay for it. Do we have this potential issue that we're going to hit on our general fund again if we're going to do this?
What we're awarding now in front of you includes a 10% contingency, which should cover any change order that may come up during the project. Now, if we go beyond the 10%, we can look at the fund balance for AB 2766. And if the fund balance is able to cover that change order or that differential cost, then it will probably come from that fund.
History are sitting over here. I go with you, okay, all those proposals. Most of the time it exists 20,000, exists 50,000, exists, okay, $30,000, and we have to pay for our general fund. So I just don't want the same thing happen again. If we take this supposedly free money and to install this device, it's very green, but at the same time, you're going to hit our general fund in the potential future. So this is one issue I have. Second thing, the issue I have is, so who is using it? Who should pay for it? Okay, you're driving around, you go over there, you plug in, and you use the electricity. So how much is charged to the person, okay, using this device, and how they charge? I just don't understand. Okay, how long it take? 1 hour's charge? They will charge $10, $5. Maybe you can give me the education.
Right now, we don't have that information yet. But the consultant that prepared the plans has a lot of experience working with cities on that. So if the city decides to charge for the use of the charging stations, then we can work with a consultant to develop a charge per hour. I've seen, I think, other cities, they charge anywhere from $2 to $3, I think, per hour.
I think it's neighbor city they charge. Okay, right. So I think it's the same thing. Okay, otherwise everybody come to our city and doing it, and we only have how many stations you want to install?
We're installing 8. Some of them are dual charging stations, so it has the ability to charge 12 or 13 vehicles.
12 to 13 vehicles.
Correct.
Totally.
You're right.
Okay, so and how many locations?
3 locations. So there will be here at City Hall. I believe there are 5, I think, that are being installed here at City Hall, 2 at Plaza West Covina, and 1 over at Big League Dreams.
And the next question would be, okay, now the car park over, they plug in. how long we allow them to plug, not sit over there forever, right? So what's the restriction? Do you have anything in mind how you put this as a regulation or
Just
way?
like the ones we have here at City Hall, they're supposed to be limited to 4 hours. So it's a matter of working with code enforcement or parking enforcement also to check and see if they actually leave after 4 hours. But normally that's what is allowed for the facilities here at City Hall.
The mall allows 2 hours.
Yeah. Now there are charging stations that are smart charging stations too, where the police department will have the ability to check and see if it's already 100% charged, then they can go and ticket them. But the chargers we are installing don't have that ability.
Due to you have only 12 stations, okay, and you can charge 2 to 4 hours. So what I'm thinking about, maybe they are always occupied. So the really people driving the electric car don't have a chance to really go over there to charge. So this is another concern because we don't have that many. We only have a 12 and a 2 to 4, and maybe we don't even charge them. Then you will see the car parking over there all the time, 4 hours, maybe even more than 4 hours. So then the way we install that thing is not even to be used properly.
Well, that's why it has to be a combination working with the police department to make sure that they do enforce whatever maximum time limit will be allowed for use of those vehicles. And at the same time, we'll be working at looking at other grants, just like the Southern California Edison grant, and see if we can apply for more charging stations. And I believe that AQMD has another cycle coming up too.
So entire city, 120,000 population, we only have a 12 station. I think they just drop our basket, okay? So we need more to make it effective, okay? So this 12 is like a teaser, okay? So I don't know, it's really will make a dent, and then you have problem, people parking over there all the time in front of you, okay, on the City Hall. So that is maybe the concern I have.
It has to be a process. We have to keep on installing so many every year as we apply for grants. We've also looked, just to kind of add information to the Edison grant, we looked at that grant or that email that they sent out. I think there are basically 4 types of grants that are available. One is mainly for the Port of Long Beach, so that's really for theirs. Another one is for bus electrification, so that's really for transit or transportation agencies. Another one I think is for residential and multi-unit dwelling units. And the last one that I think we may be eligible for would be the urban direct charge, fast charging stations. So we're looking into that. I believe the guidelines will come out sometime in the second quarter of this year.
Thank you.
Ms. Warshaw?
I had a question in regards to the ability, I don't think our police department can do anything at the plaza. That's private property. And I'm wondering about Big League Dreams. Do we have that ability to set time limits?
We certainly do, and the police department can enforce, because just like, for example, someone parks on a handicap spot at the plaza, they're able to write a citation. So if there's...
It's posted.
Yeah.
It needs to be posted, but once it's posted, it can be enforced by local law enforcement.
And would that have to be approved by the plaza then?
Yes, and I believe it is currently posted for local law enforcement.
Lloyd has stuff too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My couple of questions is, you say 2 to 4 hours of parking. I think Councilman Tolman said the 2 hours at the mall, whatever. What states that time for those 2 hours? I mean, you plug your car in. Is there a time limit? Does it shut off by itself? How do you know you've been there 2 hours? And how do we enforce that part? If you're only allowed to be there 2 to 4 hours, if you're there over the 4 hours, how do you know when you first got there? I'm just saying, there has to be, to me, there has to be some way of saying, this car pulls up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If he's allowed to be there at 8 o'clock, if he's there past 8 o'clock, then he gets a ticket, or something has to be done. So I think some kind of enforcement would have to be into it. We can't say, well, you're allowed to be there 2 to 4 hours, and you can't enforce that. That's just, you might as well not have anything up there then. If you can't enforce it, what's the reason of having it there? So I think as we go forward, we need to have something in place, say, if there's a 2-hour charging or a 4-hour charging, there should be some way that you've checked in at 4 o'clock or something, or if they come up and your meter's turned off, they give you a ticket after 4. It's just something for thought that we should have when we move forward with this, that we should have to look forward into that. Thank you.
Mr. Wu.
I have a quick question. So then now another question is maintenance. Who's going to, well kept, all those devices if it broke and this and that, device broke all the time. So who's going to well keep all those devices? And then who pay for it?
We have a couple of electricians in our staff that will probably have the ability to repair minor electrical problems. But if the problem is with the unit itself, then we may have to go back and call the manufacturer. Normally it comes with a number of years of warranty. So for this particular one, I'm not sure, and I can double check in the specifications. But it normally comes with some type of warranty, whether 2 years or 5 years or 10 years.
Potential vandalism. Nighttime over here, people cut the cord off and you have no control. So who's going to pay for it?
So maybe if they cut the cord, they get electrocuted. I don't know. I mean, it's something just, it's really just like any structure, any facility that maybe working with a police department that, there's going to be some type of looking after them.
I'm not against this. I think this is the future, but I don't know if it's mature enough for us to install all those devices if we don't have a package. So because I think the future will be energy saving, all this, I agree. Maybe a lot of people more want to try the hybrid, and then become electric car. But it's that, how we install all those devices and people can go over there and charge, but who will go over there, wait for 4 hours unless it's the city hall staff, they walk over here, they park their car, charge. Other than that, who will come over here, charge, and then no place to go, waiting for 4 hours over there, and reading the newspaper. It's a where you put all these devices and it will be really utilized for us to install this. Otherwise, it just look very nice, but it's not really, just very small, amount of people will use, and that is the concern I have.
Well, right now, it's a first come, first serve basis. It really is whoever gets to the charging station first. If it's available, then they're able to use it. Now, the police department, when they check for the 2 hours or the 4 hour time limit, I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but it may be the same as when they check for parking, where they probably mark the tires. Right now, like I said, the charging stations that we are installing, they are not the smart charging stations yet, where the police department won't have the ability to check whether it's 100% charged already or not. So the way they'll probably check it is just like marking tires. But I think it's really the challenge that all the cities are facing. They can only install so many charging stations every year, and there are so many electric vehicle cars out there. So it's really up to the city to develop the policy and kind of working with the police department to do some type of enforcement. But it's going to be a process, but it's something that's coming, so I think we just have to be prepared for it.
Okay, Mr. Tillman?
Thank you. So just in terms of where we are right now, there is an over demand. Every time I park up there all the time, there's cars there all the time. There's almost never a time when there aren't cars parked over in the mall. I can't say it's all the time, but most of the time. And we've had these chargers for years, because I had a judge one time ask me about one of the chargers out of date. I think we have a number around the plaza, and then also some at the city hall. So I know we've had them for years. I don't know how many years it's been.
I think they were in the late 1990s.
Okay, so they've been around for quite a long time. And I just know that there's over demand. That's the reason why I asked about the pricing, because I think that's the only way that's going to be able to regulate. There's going to be an over demand for these things for sure, because the number of electric cars on the road are just growing by like dozens fold. I don't know what the actual rate is, but it's huge. But there is no doubt that I have in my mind that with these, there's still going to be an over-demand for them. One of the ways of regulating that demand is by charging something. I mean, I still think there's going to be an over-demand for it, but at least it keeps people moving and going through and getting more people used to the thing, rather than just having a couple people go there because they want to get it for free and then just sit there, and then other people can't go there and use it, even though they would have the option to.
And I think that's part of the issue that Edison is trying to address too, when they provide rebate programs to residential units. That way that the single-family homeowners or the apartment renters have the ability to charge at their place or at their homes instead of going to a public area to charge. So I think that's part of that issue that's being addressed right there.
Yeah, no, the Colony has them also, and sometimes when there's an event like on Glendora at the movie theaters, I'll go to the park, then they charge. I can't tell you what the rate is, but I don't know. I mean, it's probably equivalent to what the standard prices are.
Yeah, I think it's anywhere between $2 to $3 per hour. It's kind of what I heard from others.
Mr. Freeland wants to say something, and then I have some questions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Should the city council wish to move forward at looking at some kind of fee structure, we'll get data from other cities and bring it back. That's something we can look in-house and provide that information, because each site will be a little unique. The Plaza at West Covina, while we own the parking structures, the plaza is responsible for the maintenance and the expenditures and the cost for the operations there. So they are paying for electricity there. As we establish the fee structure, can charge a rate for the cost for electricity plus a nominal fee for, any kind of maintenance of the facility as well. And what we can do is perhaps talk to the plaza and say, hey, we will help you reimburse your electricity costs. We get a portion of it back for our ongoing maintenance of the structure. And we'll have to look at that for each location if it's not on our own public property.
Okay, hold on. I have some questions. I have some questions real quick, and then we'll get to the amendment stuff. This is just, first of all, I think we should congratulate ourselves that we are matching an AQMD grant with an AQMD grant. I mean, if that doesn't say how great government is, isn't that great? But everyone, I mean, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here. But I have some questions. For example, there's no other bids listed here, just the normal stuff that we would normally get on any other project. It just has the one that we are awarding the one bid. Were there any other bidders?
No, that's on page 2 of your staff report.
Yeah, there were 5 bids received.
I just have the contract. Do you guys have it?
We had 5 different bids that were submitted as part of the project.
I don't see a page on it.
I think it's on this one they gave us.
Oh, is this the one they gave us today? Oh, is this, okay, so this is different, okay. So so this was not in our packet then?
Yeah, I believe the first packet, I think that you got, didn't have the even number pages, I think. So.
Okay, so that was my questions, dealt with some of that. And then, the other thing about this is, I understand what Mr. Thomas says and stuff, but, if there's a market for this, there'd be an ARCO with a bunch of electric charging stations there. If there was really truly a market for it. I mean, the reality is we're the state subsidizing electric cars, and now we're subsidizing the electricity part of it too. I mean, and so I mean, we have to think about that. Is that people are paying fees that are coming to this, and it's going to. How many people are actually going to be served by building all these stations? How many people are actually going to be served if they're sitting there 4 hours? How many people? And that's assuming if they're, even if we did the math on that, a gas station can get 4 people out, with a tank of gas in 5-6 minutes, depending on if they do it right there at the pump. That's much more efficient than this, and government didn't start gas stations. And so I'm not sure how this actually, does anything except just serve a few people that happen to have access to it that are already getting stuff subsidized. I don't see how that's beneficial. I don't understand how the city benefits from it. I just don't get that part of it. And especially, it does not have in here how we are paying for the costs we have that are ongoing. He said the maintenance, that they would do it, we're paying for electricity in some of the cases, right? Correct? And there's no source of funds in here listed for that.
Well, again, we're already paying for electricity here at City Hall for the stations that we do have.
Right, but there's an electricity cost. There's a cost.
There might be an incremental cost, yes.
Really? Electricity is that cheap? It's not that cheap in California anymore.
It's a pretty, we do spend a lot of funds every year on electricity, but again, it's an incremental cost here.
Okay, well, don't tell my kids that, because I tell them to turn off lights all the time.
But I would say that, for like the Plaza West Covina, they are interested in these type of facilities.
And they're going to eat that stuff, yeah.
Right,
okay.
Because folks do go to the mall, go shopping, leave their vehicles there to be charged, and then come back.
Right.
Bigly Dream, same thing. They go participate over there, provide that service. You get 4 people during the hours the mall's open, to go to these stations. That gets 4 people there at max during a day. So maybe that makes the big difference in the mall structure. Maybe Again, this is a policy decision of the council.
But I'm just struggling to see that, why we're going through this process at this point. I get that we have 2 different funds from AQMD that we're going to match and say yay, but we are going to have ongoing costs and issues with this. And as already pointed out, this stuff we're buying is already outdated, right? There's already the smart stuff out there, and we're buying outdated equipment for this.
It's not outdated. It doesn't have the ability, it's not smart like the other charging stations, which may be double or triple the cost. but it's not outdated.
It's like a cheaper version.
Yeah, I mean, there's
It's like
different.
buying, it's like buying a Mercedes versus buying a Hyundai.
You could get superchargers that charge really, really fast, but those cost a huge amount of money. So only the people who drive the fancy ones,
Teslas or
exactly,
whatever.
the Tesla charge, which are called superchargers. You find those around, but those are the state of the art.
Yeah, but well, Tesla should be setting up, electric stations then.
Mr. Mayor, so I know the superchargers have that. Are you saying that, I know that the ones that we've applied with the grant and talked about doing don't have the ability to charge, but there are small ones that do. Did we look into that? No, not the supercharge. Right, I'm not looking at that for these.
These are the
this
level
type.
2 chargers, which
Right,
has
and
the
you're
ability
telling
to
me
charge 4 hours.
Right, but you said they don't have the ability to.
These are not the smart chargers where the police department will be able to check from their phones whether the vehicle is already 100% charged or not.
And when I'm saying the 4-hour smart charger or the 4-hour charger like this, does anyone make one that has the ability to have the police department be able to look at it?
Most of the vehicles that are available out there, they normally come with an app where you can check if you're charging at a particular charging station, if you're 90% or 100%. But the charging stations themselves, they probably have a light or something that shows whether it's still charging or it has already been completed.
Right. No, what I'm asking is not for the individual, for the police department. Do they make ones that aren't the superchargers that have that ability? And did we look at that?
Yeah, when we worked with a consultant that prepared the design for this, they said that they were more expensive, probably twice the cost of the chargers that we are speccing out on this project. So we were kind of working with a certain amount based on the grant that we have for this particular project.
Okay, Mr. Wu?
Just a very quick question again, and the thing I worry about the maintenance. Do you have a budget in your mind how much we can set aside for this after we install 12 or maybe in the future 24, 36? So we should have, because that won't be paid by the grant. This will be paid by our general fund for the maintenance, right?
Yeah.
And in the vandalism, okay, this and that. We don't have insurance for this either, right? Do we have insurance for this? Okay, so for example, something like this, we can have them to pay for the repair. They can give us a new device. So if it's so totally by vandalism, okay, can we get a new device for free? Okay, or we have to pay for a new one for our general fund. This is so I'm saying there's a potential will happen for all we put over here. We have nobody watching it. Okay, potential thing will happen. Or it broke. You have okay. How long is the warranty? Okay, 12 months. Okay, and or 24 months. And then, so you have to give us or give me what your idea about how much for the budget, okay, maybe $10,000 a year or maybe $5,000 a year or maybe even less than that, okay, just to maintenance this 12 or 24 device in the future.
Yeah, we can probably figure out a number by working with my staff. Right now, I don't have that information right now. But being that these units are going to be new for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, there probably will be very little maintenance involved in this. And most of that will be covered by warranty still. So if there's something wrong with the charging station itself, we can call the manufacturer and maybe have them come out and fix it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Warshaw.
When we talked to the consultant on this, did they mention or did we ask if the manufacturer or anyone else has a monthly maintenance fee that can be done on these things?
I haven't personally, but we can definitely get that information from them.
What's the council's pleasure?
But again,
on this?
usually the maintenance fee doesn't come into effect till after the warranty expires. So
depending on what it is.
True, but typically
because if the cord gets cut, that's not under warranty.
Well, the maintenance plan probably would not cover that anyway. That's vandalism.
It might cover you might have to buy the thing, but Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Warshaw.
I'll make a motion to hold this over until we can get some more information from the consultant on the ability to, I'd like to find out what the price is for the more expensive, not supercharger, but ones that the police department can monitor. And number two, are there maintenance contracts that can be put on here? And that way we can decide at that point in time whether we want to put these in or just put in maybe one supercharger at each location, because they only take 15 minutes to get 80% charged. And number two, that we also look into talking to Big League Dreams and to the plaza on charging a fee for the maintenance if we're not providing the electricity. If we're providing the electricity or a portion of the electricity, we need to have a fee for that to recover our costs.
Well, the fee, we can implement that. We wouldn't have to check with them.
Yeah, hold
but we'll talk to them if that's what the council decides.
Yeah, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, if I can make a suggestion, is that instead that's just that one question, that any question council members have, they need to get it to Mr. Freeland by tomorrow morning, like at 10 o'clock, so that they, so it's not just that one. I don't want to come back and say, oh, I had another question that I didn't get answered from the consultants. Is that okay? Is that okay with you? Okay. What's the time frame, though? I had a question on this bid. Like, when does it expire, the bid part of it?
Normally, the bids expire within 60 days.
So when would this one expire?
So the bids were open December 5th, so it'll be February 5th. Or, no, so it will be probably
before next meeting.
And do you think, can you get information back to us before that?
We can certainly try.
Well, then.
The expiration of the bid, if it's 60 days, would be the day before our next council meeting.
Yeah. But if we do decide to change the charging station, then we're going to have to redesign the project and go out to bid again.
Okay, so what's the, there's been a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, if I can clarify also, we can also go back to the lowest vendor and ask them if they'll extend their bid for another 30 days as well.
Okay. So it's been moved by Mr. Warshot and seconded by Mr. Wu that we get some all answers 10 o'clock. Got to have them to Mr. Freeland, and also dealing with the fees at the Big League Dreams and the mall. Okay. Thank you. Is there? Let's do a roll call.
Johnson.
Aye.
Toma.
Aye.
Warshaw.
Aye.
Wu.
Aye.
Spence.
Aye. It passes 5-0. Now we're on item 13, report regarding request from Councilman Tony Wu to discuss short-term rentals. 12. Oh, I skipped 12, sorry. 12. Well, let's take a 5-minute break then. 5-minute break. I'll never get through, okay? Okay, whenever we're ready. Okay, I think we're all back.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Almost.
I'm ready.
You're back, Mr. Wu? Okay, city manager and staff, if we can get back, we'll go ahead and call this meeting back to order.
City attorney and the treasurer.
I don't care. I don't care. We don't need no city attorney. Oh, did I say that loud?
Uh-oh.
Item number 12, ambulance subscription, Mr. Freeland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. Before you tonight is some clarification on the ambulance subscription program, as well as some possible enhancements for consideration for the City Council. So tonight we've asked Russell Narana, as well as Assistant Fire Chief Mike Fountain, to make a brief presentation to you to talk about the ambulance subscription program, as well as the EMS fee that was adopted earlier this year. With that, I'll turn it over to those two gentlemen.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, city staff, and residents. My name is Mike Fountain. I'm an Assistant Fire Chief here in the West Covina Fire Department, and I'm here today with our Management Analyst, Russell Narahara, and our plan today is to provide a brief overview and some suggestions for improvement to enhance the value of our ambulance subscription program. West Covina paramedics, as you may know, provide transport services here in the community, which is beneficial. It's an outstanding program that allows us to provide swift delivery of service, very quick transport services to the hospital, and provides for a continuity of quality and timely care to our residents. Now, prior to an ambulance subscription program, we continued to provide services in that manner. However, when you received a bill from your insurance company for your ambulance transport, that could vary greatly depending on the level of service provided and the ambulance company, your type of insurance, or any of those factors. And those bills could range greatly from anywhere from under $100 to well over $2,000 depending on your insurance. So we began offering a subscription service for our residents for a yearly fee of $70. We would cover the difference of that transport. So you or a designated family member in your home, if there was a need to call 911 and we showed up and provided transportation, you could rest assured that you weren't going to incur an additional ambulance bill, because we would cover the difference between what your insurance company paid, or Medicaid or Medi-Cal, and the actual charges. And we see great value in that program for our residents and for our subscribers. And it's our goal to not only continue this program, and a valuable program, but to enhance it through several other options that will improve the program and provide added value for our subscribers. We've worked extremely hard at researching it. Russell has spent quite a bit of time talking to other communities, other cities, other organizations that provide these types of services. And more importantly, as you heard from two residents tonight, two subscribers to this program, the value they found in this program. And it was gratifying to hear a lot of comments from people we contacted. Not only were they pleased that we provided this service, they were pleased with the care they received and the quality of care they received from our paramedics. And this program is not unique to West Covina. I'd like to point out that in my community, this program is offered. I've been a longtime subscriber. Fortunately, I've never had to use it, but I believe strongly as a paramedic and a person who's providing for my family and my own community that it is a valuable service. And in my community, it not only provides for me, but it gives me a peace of mind for my family and my friends, particularly when I'm here at work and I can't make those decisions. I know no one has to dwell on thinking about when to call 911 and who's going to pay for an ambulance, because it'll be covered in the program that I participate in my own community. And so for more of an overview on the program and our suggestions and our recommendations for enhancements to our program, I'd like to turn it over to Russell.
Thank you. Thank you, Assistant Chief Fountain. So tonight we're going to be going over 4 different sections. I'll be covering sections 1 and 2. Chief Fountain will then go over section 3, and we'll end together with section 4. So onto the program history and statistics. The ambulance subscription program was first approved by City Council on February 17, 2009. At the time, over half of the 911 calls received resulted in a transportation of the patient to a local hospital. Today, the statistics are pretty much the same. On average, we receive approximately 9,000 calls for service, 70% of which result in emergency medical services. And of that number, another 55% actually result in a transport. So of the total of 9,000 calls per year, 3,600 or 40% result in an actual transport. So what we've noticed is that a large percentage of our 911 users are actually being transported to a hospital. Now, even if a patient has insurance, insurance does not cover 100% of the ambulance transport. As a result, the patient is responsible for the leftover amount required as a co-payment, oftentimes, which can add up to hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over multiple transports. Back in 2009, when the ambulance subscription program was first introduced, the situation was the same. Patients were responsible for required co-payments, and the city decided to introduce a voluntary program that would protect interested residents from the unexpected costs associated with emergency medical services. At that time, the cost of the program was $48 per year. Over the years, as shown by the slide, the council has revisited this topic. In 2014, the price was increased from $48 to $70 per year to ensure the program revenues exceeded program costs. In 2015, the program was also reevaluated despite low membership. When I say low membership, I mean that the program has never exceeded more than 400 subscribers, despite the fact that this city has over 100,000 people. And finally, tonight, we'll be covering not only the history of the program, but again, to Chief Fountain's point, different enhancements in ways in which we can increase the value of the membership to our community and hopefully increase membership while also not increasing the cost of the program to all current subscribers. This slide provides another overview as to how the program works. The patient calls 911, is transported to a hospital. Our billing company verifies and charges the patient's insurance, and any leftover amount is waived because that person has a current ambulance subscription membership. It's a very straightforward program, and from all the different people we've surveyed and spoken to, actual members, everyone has said the same thing. It's a great program to limit our out-of-pocket costs. To provide more examples so you totally understand how this program works, here's an example ambulance bill. As you may or may not know, the City of West Covina's ambulance rates are dictated or set by the County of Los Angeles. For fiscal year 2017-18, the cost of a BLS, or basic life support ambulance transport, is $1,407. There are additional mileage charges and disposable medical supply charges as shown. In this example, the total due was $1,400 and change, and this member had private insurance, whether through Aetna, HealthNet, etc. As shown by the slide, because the member had an active ambulance subscription membership for $70 a year, that membership for the next 12 months would waive any of these types of transports. In this slide, as you can see, the remaining balance or co-payment of $292 has been waived by the program because of the active membership. To provide the history in terms of the program financials, as you can see from this slide, we've never exceeded more than 400 members. Membership is based upon different criteria and different ingredients. Basically, it comes down to subscription revenues need to exceed program costs, or essentially the membership write-off, in order for the program to not cost the city any money. Unfortunately, as shown, the program has cost the city money because of lower membership. So now let's talk about how we plan to enhance the program. Currently, the ambulance subscription program does not cover a member who moves from their residential address to a commercial address, such as a nursing facility. This has disappointed many of our members who have called and spoken with someone like myself to learn to their dismay that unfortunately, despite years of continued membership, because of a life event and someone having to move to a nursing home, the program membership no longer covers them. As such, the fire department recommends that we change the policies. The fire department recommends that we enhance the program where, regardless of life events, someone's program membership will continuously cover them regardless of where they live, as long as they are picked up within West Covina. A second enhancement, visitors. Currently, membership only covers the residential members who are living inside of the member's household, the permanent members. Because life happens and because we all throw parties or have people over and things happen and someone might get hurt at your home, the fire department recommends that we enhance the program to not only cover the residential family members, but also any visitor who visits that member's household. Again, not changing the price on the members at all, but just making sure that we understand that, again, life happens. We want to make sure this program covers you. Number 3, historically, this program, the ambulance subscription program, has only been available to residential households and members. To increase membership and to make sure that other segments of the community are addressed or covered, the fire department proposes enhancing the program to not only cover residential households, but also local businesses. Similar to other benefits offered to employees, local businesses can offer an ambulance subscription membership to their employees, similar to like a gym membership. The cost of the program is $70 for every 10 employees. So in comparison to a residential membership, which is $70 for your household, we're recommending $70 per year per 10 employees. So a business who has 20 employees, for instance, would be paying $70 times 2, or $140 per year to cover 20 of their employees. For the next 12 months, those employees would be covered should they be needing emergency ambulance transportation, as long as they're within the city of West Covina when they're picked up. This also means that the employees do not have to be residents of West Covina, as is the case for the residential membership. The fire department has seen this type of enhancement with local communities on our borders, including Monterey Park. And here's an example. As you can see, and I know it's a little small, but this is a screenshot of Monterey Park's website and an advertisement for their paramedic ambulance membership program, which, although the name sounds different, is exactly the same as this city's ambulance subscription program. On the bottom, although again it's hard to see, it essentially says that for Monterey Park businesses, the cost of the program is $50 for every 10 employees. Although West Covina's program is a little more expensive at $70 for every 10 employees, the fire department believes it's still a great value. Number 4, the fire department also wishes to propose enhancing the program to cover the transportation provided by a private ambulance company. Currently, program membership will only cover you if you are transported by a fire department ambulance. Going forward, the fire department recommends that we change the program to also provide coverage for private ambulance company transports. And I'm going to pause here. And Chris, did you want to add anything?
I did, from the mayor and councils and the members of the community, one of the directions of the city council is to provide additional ambulance coverage to our community so we have better response times for emergency services. And so the fire department is working with private ambulance companies to provide additional services when our units are not available to respond to an emergency call. As such, we're coming back to you at your next city council meeting with a temporary agreement with a variety of different ambulance providers until we can do an RFP for those services. Once that RFP is completed, in the conditions of the RFP will be this measure if the city council wishes to continue moving forward.
Thank you, Chris. The fifth enhancement. The fire department proposes waiving the EMS assessment fee. Now, let's pause here and talk about what exactly is the EMS assessment fee. At the April 18th, 2017 City Council meeting, an EMS assessment fee, or Emergency Medical Services assessment fee, of $289, a flat fee of $289, was approved. This flat fee would be charged when a patient receives medical services but is not transported by an ambulance. If a patient is not transported, the amount of time spent examining the patient or rendering paramedic services is not reimbursable. In the industry, this type of fee is referred to as a treat, no transport fee. The EMS assessment fee is a common fee charged by fire departments throughout Southern California. In comparison to West Covina's $289 EMS assessment fee, the cities of Alhambra, Buena Park, Fullerton, Monterey Park, and Sierra Madre, among others, all charge a similar EMS assessment fee. In those other cities, the flat fee charged ranges between $250 to $550. In comparison to West Covina's $289 fee, we're right in the middle. The effective date of the EMS assessment fee was June 18, 2017. However, to date, the fire department has actually not started charging this fee. The main factor was that many of the residents who use our transportation services have Medicare or Medicaid. From our research, we have learned that Medicare does not cover any portion of this $289 fee. Medicaid covers about 40 cents on the dollar. And as a percentage of our total population, or the 3,600 people who are transported per year, 50% of those transported have Medicare, 25% have Medicaid. And so because the majority, or 75%, have one of those two types of insurance, the fire department chose not to implement the EMS assessment fee until we figured out a way to ensure that residents who were charged this fee had another option. And to that end, the fire department has researched other cities, and we've learned the following. We've learned that other cities offer a paramedic membership program or ambulance subscription program as an alternative to paying an EMS assessment fee. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that anyone who's assessed this EMS assessment fee will be provided 30 to 45 days, or until the bill goes to collections, to sign up for the $70 ambulance subscription program to cover their household for the next 12 months instead of paying the $289 fee. That also means that for the next 12 months, anytime that EMS assessment fee is charged, again, when you call 911, paramedics arrive, they provide services, but you decide not to get transported, your $70 annual fee that you paid for that subscription will waive every single one of those fees. And again, if you do need transports to a hospital, after insurance pays, the co-payment or remaining balance will again be waived by the ambulance subscription program. So as you might imagine, those statistics and those facts were reasons why the fire department decided not to implement the EMS assessment fee until we can actually meet with the council tonight. Because again, we are proposing, as part of the ambulance subscription program, that residents be provided the option to sign up for the ambulance subscription program. And by option, I'm also talking about not only those who are existing members of our ambulance subscription program, but anyone who also is charged this fee, who has never heard about the ambulance subscription program, will give you the time to sign up for the program to again have those fees waived. It seems like a fair deal to us. And finally, with regard to the last program enhancement, oh, sorry, I forgot to provide an example from another city. Here's Sierra Madre's, a screenshot from their website. It shows in the bottom how, as effective July 1, 2016, a $273 dispatch fee, which is essentially a treat no transport fee, will be charged in the city of Sierra Madre. The fee would apply to all medical incidents where a patient is not transported to a hospital, and members of the Sierra Madre paramedic subscription program would be exempt from such a fee. So this is just an example of other cities. We're essentially just copying them, and we're trying to, again, provide value to our community. Finally, the last program enhancement is changing vendors, or essentially the vendor who manages the ambulance subscription program. Currently, the program is managed by the same company that manages our business license program, HDL. The fire department is proposing to instead move management of the program from HDL, again, whose business model centers around business licenses at this time, and not necessarily managing an ambulance subscription program, to Whitman Enterprises, the city's billing provider who charges or is responsible for billing for all ambulance transports. Some of the benefits of moving the program to Whitman Enterprises, the first of which is residents who contact Whitman Enterprises or who receive a bill from Whitman Enterprises will be informed of the existence of the ambulance subscription program. This, again, per the other points I made previously, is a huge value, since you would be aware of the fact that you could waive an EMS assessment fee if you signed up for the ambulance subscription program. And because the ambulance subscription program is also managed by the same company who's doing the billing, any type of billing error would also go away. In the past, we have experienced a couple billing errors because we have two different companies managing the program. And by moving all services to one, the fire department believes that those type of errors will be eliminated. In addition, every single resident who receives a bill from Whitman Enterprises for ambulance transport services rendered will also receive a bill insert letting them know about the existence of the ambulance subscription program. In case someone doesn't visit our website, again, www.westcovina.org/ambulance, they would be able to understand and know about the existence of the program to, again, provide their family with value. Finally, the fire department will be provided with better access to reporting tools, and customers, most importantly, will be able to submit their application online, pay online, renew online, all things that HDL provides, but we've found that Whitman can provide the services a little bit better. And that being said, that concludes the 6 program enhancements that the fire department is recommending, and I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Mike.
Thank you, Russell. You know, I'd like to commend Russell for the hard work he's put into looking at the various programs throughout our communities. He wasn't just looking for space fillers. He really took an opportunity to evaluate these programs, how they might affect our customers, our subscribers, potential subscribers, and how to make them best fit for our community. So thank you, Russell, for a good job. We've suggested several enhancements. We feel really strongly and have taken a really hard look at this program because we want to improve it, and we think there's true value in this system. For not only your average subscriber, but for our senior citizens and people who are on limited income, to bridge that gap between whatever insurance is provided and these very expensive ambulance bills. We're trying to find a solution. But along with that hard look, we had to look at other options, and I think Russell's done a very good job with his team to finding several solutions and enhancements that will not only improve service, it'll streamline the process and provide added value for the services. So we thank everyone for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Freeland. Are there questions from council? Mr. Wu.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Okay, eligibility, who is eligible for this program? Okay, is that people living in West Covina, every household, okay, and then do you want to check their insurance? Because it look like this is $70 enhancement, meaning you only cover the deductible. For example, it's $1,400, then you have another $250 deductible you have to pay, not just $70 cover. So my question is, so what kind of insurance? Because everybody have a different kind of insurance. You have Obamacare, you have this care, that care, and then you have people cover the insurance, people don't cover the ambulance. So because they have a different charge. So you have to review their insurance so you can, okay, enroll them. This is my first question. And then how many times you can call the insurance? You can call the ambulance. So of course, we don't want to call the ambulance all the time, but hey, it just sometimes just you have people, elderly, like for example, back in 1998, when my father lived with me and was sick, okay, and 6 times I called an ambulance, okay, before he passed away. It's a very, very tough time, but I understand, but I don't know how $70 annually, how many times you can cover, maybe the 2 times, 3 times, the 4th time you have to charge me. So this is my question. And then, okay, this program only for the West Covina residents only, including the people, okay, have a business in West Covina, am I right? So this is my another question. Okay, and then when you talk about private, okay, ambulance, and right now I know we are operated by our West Covina, okay, fire department have our ambulance. So how about fire department allows, okay, I don't know, okay, any of private ambulance kind of doing business in West Covina? Okay, so this is another issue, okay, and I have, so maybe you can answer. Thank you.
Yes. So your first question was different types of insurance. There are many different types of insurance, as we all know. And to answer your question, regardless of the type of insurance, this program will pick up the co-payment due after all insurance has actually covered whatever the bill was originally. To help us understand all the different types of insurance, since the city does not have the expertise, that is where we lean on our business partners. In this case, Whitman Enterprises, our EMS billing provider, who has the expertise to understand all the different types of insurance to make sure that insurance is billed to the maximum so the city receives every single cent possible from the different insurance companies. And after that is done, any remaining balance, again, would be waived by the ambulance subscription program. Your second question was, how many times can you be transported by the ambulance subscription program? The program, as designed and introduced back in 2009, provided for unlimited ambulance transfers. And so you may ask yourself, wow, that's a great value for $70. I could be potentially transported 14 times for the entire year. And actually, to that example of 14, we actually do have a subscription member who has been transported 14 times and who has received absolutely 0 bills from this program. Now, your next question was, is it only for West Covina and local businesses? Yes. This program, since its inception, has only been available to residents of West Covina, not non-residents, only residents. Previously, again, this program was not available to local businesses. We would like to enhance the program so that local businesses are covered as well. Again, to the original point, local businesses would have to reside in West Covina. Now, in terms of the actual transport, like I mentioned earlier, as long as the pickup of the patient, regardless if they're a local business employee or a resident, has to be within the city of West Covina. Now, the transport to location, or the hospital person's transport to, does not need to be within West Covina. For instance, one of the hospitals we typically transport to outside of West Covina is Intra-Community Hospital, which happens to be in the city of Covina. If a member is transported from West Covina to, again, the city of Covina at Intercommunity, that bill would be, again, covered and waived. Yes. And regarding private ambulances, in terms of all the different companies within West Covina that operate, to Chris's original point earlier, I believe that the intent is to cover the private ambulance transport bills, but only after the city has issued an RFP and we have a defined number, maybe 1 or 2 vendors who actually provide ambulance transport, and not opening up this program enhancement before that RFP is done.
Okay, very good, thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple questions. The one was, it would cover visitors if come to my house if I have the prescription. What if my visitors outside of West Covina, they don't have insurance? So my question is, what part would they have to pay after that? And also, what if you have children, you know, if they don't have insurance and they're in the household? Those are 2 questions I'd like to have an answer for.
No problem. To answer your first question, in terms of visitors who may not only live outside of West Covina, but also do not have insurance, the program would still cover those visitors. The reason being is that as designed right now, the program actually covers you even if you don't have insurance. So in the case of someone who has absolutely no insurance at all, and this is how the program has been designed since 2009, again, this is a great value, since for $70, every single emergency ambulance transport, the key point being emergency, because we're not going to cover you if you need to be, just go to your doctor's appointment, would be waived and covered. And so to our point with regard to enhancing the program to cover visitors, those visitors do not have to be residents of West Covina. How our billing company, Whitman, figures that out is based upon the residential pickup address. If the residential pickup address matches their log of current ambulance subscription members, they would do a little bit more research, contact the city to verify, and long and short of it, they would waive those bills for those visitors.
Mr. Toma.
Thank you. A couple of questions. The first one is do you have an understanding as to, considering the satisfaction with the members who do take advantage of this, why the numbers have gotten lower? Is that a marketing issue? Because the thing is about people, as I get older, I realize that people are really bad at judging risk. I mean, on an individual, they really are. I mean, I am too. This sounds like a good program. I probably should be taking advantage of this. I have to, I'm looking at earthquake insurance premiums are at really low. I don't know if I should be doing that, right? Most people don't have the tools in their head to figure out this kind of risk analysis. But it sounds like it's a really good deal. Like I should be, even though I'm a healthy person who probably has relatively low risk compared to a lot of other people, I should probably be doing it. I think everyone who is over a certain age, if I'm thinking about that, they should probably be doing this too. So, but given the fact that people are not good at making these assessments, is the reason for the decline, do you think, a marketing reason? So that's my first question.
And that's a very good question, and the answer to your question is absolutely a lack of marketing. It's very difficult to market in our city. For instance, in the city I live, they're able to advertise it and attach a monthly fee directly to your water refuse bill. So it's very easy to collect money. It's very easy to check that box and have it come to you monthly and pay that. Since we don't have a mechanism similar to that, it makes it very difficult to send out brochures and other information. And to Russell's credit, he has noticed that fact right off the bat, and he said we need to market this program, and that's what led the charge to try to enhance and improve and increase the value for this program and to find better ways to effectively market it. As you said, I would recommend anyone in this room to pay for this program. It is a tremendous value, and again, the more members we have, the more likely we are to recover our costs while still providing that program. He's been working extremely hard to improve our websites, links, ease of sign up, ease of access to pay, current subscriptions, renew subscriptions, and those are all short, medium, and long-term goals that we're working towards to provide ways to better market and make this program known in our community.
I do think it's a good idea about giving people the opportunity before they hit that assessment fee of joining this. You'd be really, despite most people's inability to judge these risks, you'd have to be an idiot not to take advantage of it at that point. Then I think that's going to get a good number of people from there. The second question that I have is with respect to, we have the good, useful survey of these other cities in terms of the subscription costs and response fees, and that's helpful to know that we're in the ballpark of where they are. But do we have some qualitative assessment of which of these cities thinks yeah, our program's working really well? Because I'm just curious. I don't know if any of these numbers, it gives me some comfort in knowing that we're within the reasonableness area, but I don't know if there's something that price-wise or fee-wise somebody's doing where they feel like that's making a difference in terms of any one of these cities saying this program is working fantastic in our area.
I don't have the specific statistics in front of me, but I have actually called and spoken with representatives from each of these cities. And one thing I did notice right off the bat is that their membership numbers are always in the thousands. The lowest total I found was about 3,000 or 4,000 between that number. Huntington Beach was the best example I found. They, again, to Mike's point, because they have a utility bill that you have to opt out of, I believe they have, I don't know exactly how many members, but I know they collect over $1 million in program revenue, which is huge for a program like this.
That's an opt-out program.
Yes.
Right? So it's included in the fee, and so unless you
Correct.
actually are actively opting out, it doesn't
Correct.
happen, right? Okay.
Correct. And so to answer your question, council member, I don't know exactly the reasons why, but I can find out and come back later to help answer that question.
Mr. Warshaw.
A few questions, actually. Number one, since you're talking about people in nursing homes being able to get this, what if they need transport from one nursing home to another nursing home? Is that included? Is air ambulance included? And number three, the cities that you interviewed, are any of them, do any of them not have it attached to a utility bill or some other type of bill like that? And how are they doing?
All good questions, sir. The convalescent hospital interfacility transports is what we call those. So transport from one hospital to another, one convalescent hospital to a doctor's appointment. That isn't the purpose of this fee. It's for the emergency transport through the 911 system. So those transports would not be covered. As you notice in one of the suggested enhancements, we say when a resident moves to an assisted living facility or a senior retirement committee, a lot of these, what we found over the years, communities who initially provided some level of Medicare or medical care have opted out of those things. And what they do is provide food, entertainment, activities, but they no longer provide any of those services. So when residents live there, it's just like they're renting an apartment. So we would, again, transport them from their residence of file or anyone in their residence, and those people would be covered. That's one of the reasons we included that. Air ambulances are not covered. This would only be for ground transportation services here in our community. It's not something that would be economically feasible to cover bills of those size, so that is not covered. And I'll leave your last question to Russell.
Your last question was, of the cities interviewed, do any of those cities have or don't have a water bill? The answer is yes. There are cities, unfortunately, my survey in front of you doesn't have that information, and unfortunately I didn't memorize exactly which of those cities. But again, to the previous point I made to Councilmember Toma, I can come back with that information and provide it to council. But there are definitely some of these cities do not have a water bill.
Well, any type of utility.
Or any type of, sorry, utility bill, excuse me.
Okay, I have some questions too, and you know, I'll preface it just so you know. I think we did last time we talked about this, is that I opposed the EMS assessment fee, and some of these are response to some of the questions I had, and I appreciate that. I know I met with Chief Wedhorn and trying to deal with some of these things. I also don't like the subscription fee, because in my point of view, I think residents deserve at least one free trip to the hospital in exchange for the property taxes. You know, I think we can figure that out. In fact, one of the issues on this is when you look at the billing, people don't pay that copay, you know, or the fee to us. It's very hard to collect, I should say. You know, when we were billing those, the percentage of money we were actually getting from people was very small in comparison to what we were billing out. So I have some questions about this and I appreciate the fact that we're addressing some of those, because I do think the money should always follow the person, and this came up with the whole assisted living thing and that kind of stuff. So I think that I don't have a problem with, because it should follow the person that pays it. Obviously, the revenue will go up now that we have this assessment fee, and you tell people it's going to cost you $250 unless you give us 70. You know, obviously, we're going to see more revenue come in because of that, because we've created a situation where they have two choices, and they don't, you know, and they'll take the cheaper one for the most part. So, you know, if I would choose not to have the EMS assessment fee, but since it's there, you know, I'm fine with allowing people to sign up for that. And addressing the issue of businesses is something that I know came up with Chief Whithorn, so I appreciate that. I do have, I guess, a question about what you're actually about changing the vendor part of it and how that works, because we have a contract, right, I assume, with HDL, right? And so, I mean, I don't understand. I guess when that was approved, that was probably an RP or request, I don't know. And I mean, and we can just change it, I guess, and there's no one else out there that does it, or, I mean, how should we look at that, I guess, from a process point of view?
Well, I can defer to the city attorney on that, but we would have an exit clause that we can notify HDL based on the decision of city council, and then we can move over to Whitman, who's already providing us services, our ambulance subscription program. So is that your question you're asking for?
Well, I understand. Well, that's what he said the proposal was. I guess the question was the process of going through, like, okay, how, I mean, when we approved the thing with HDL, how did that come about? I mean, was that we asked for a request on it, or did they bid on it, or how did they go then? And then how are we we're doing that? You know, we're shifting it on our own. I guess I'm trying to figure that out.
So to answer your question, when the city first approached HDL, this is per our previous finance director, there is no formal request proposal. There was no formal process. It was literally asking our current vendor, hey, could you help us with something? And HDL decided, okay, well, we've already got your business license business, so yeah, we'll try and add on this additional service. And as a result, for years, it's always been an add-on, more of an after-fact, we believe, and feel based upon the level of service provided. Not to say that the residents of the community aren't getting, again, adequate service from HDL. We just believe that we can do a little bit better. To answer your question about moving away from HDL, the current agreement with HDL provides a 15-day clause, where as long as we provide 15 days written notice, we can cancel any of the services under contract with HDL without any specific reason. In terms of the process of moving vendors, we've already researched and figured that out. The goal would be as follows: to create a roadmap or a timeline to actually ramp up or go live with Whitman. And until that plan is actually solidified and finalized with a specific go live date, we would actually not provide HDL with a cancellation notice. Only when we actually have all the bells and whistles worked out and the plan to make sure residents don't see any delay or any change in the service level provided would we actually contact HDL and let them know that we're planning to move.
Okay, and in dealing with the question of the ambulances, I know that was a big concern of bringing the private ambulances, is that if we tell a resident that for $70 it's going to be free, and then, you know, because our paramedics can't pick you up, another ambulance shows up and they say, oh, tough luck, you're going to have to pay that. You know, so that is something that has to be worked out, and not just in the temporary contracts too, not just the other part of it. And, you know, you have attachment 2 here with cities. I'm assuming, based on how stuff is funded, it was difficult to come up with cities to try to compare with, because you need to find, because the county has an EMS fee that's, you know, so they don't do the EMS assessment. So, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of a city that has their own fire. I was thinking Arcadia. You know, Arcadia's one. Yes. There's their own fire, and they don't do an EMS assessment because they have a different tax that's on that. Is that right?
So to answer your question, you're right. It took me a little time to find cities that matched all the different columns I have here. But there are other LA County cities that provide a similar ambulance subscription program, including Arcadia. Arcadia's program is $51 per year for their residents. They also have a business program, which is $54 for every 10 employees. Burbank offers a program as well, $60 a year. Burbank does not offer a business program. Downey offers a program for $60 a year. Downey does not offer a business program. Glendale offers a program for $60 a year for their residents. Their business program is $60 for every 10 employees. La Habra Heights offers a program for $45 a year for their households. Their business program is $200, a flat fee per year. I couldn't get specifics in terms of the number of employees. And finally, South Pasadena offers a program for $60 per year, where they also have a business program where it's $60 for every 10 employees.
Yeah, so how many of them use private ambulances as part of that program? You know?
All of them actually use, to my understanding, their own ambulances. But I do know that I believe it's either Burbank or Glendale. I'd have to go back to my notes. And that's where I kind of got the idea of the private ambulance transports. One of those 2 cities actually waives the cost of private ambulance transports should that member approach their fire department saying, hey, I've got this membership, can you help me out? I also know with certainty that Huntington Beach is another example, although they're in Orange County, where if any of the members of their fire med program in Huntington Beach explain to Huntington Beach fire admin that, hey, I've got this bill from this private ambulance company, can you help me out? Huntington Beach will pay for that private ambulance transport bill.
Well, I hope when we do this that we would be different, is that we would just do that rather than people have to ask for it. You know, I mean, I would prefer that. Yeah. you know, because my experience, well, you know, when I was on my accident, I got 2 ambulance bills. I was very, very fortunate because they stopped on the way. So, so I got 2. So I understand how expensive they can be. Trust me. But also my mother-in-law, you know, she did not have this, and then she went to the hospital, and then, you know, my wife paid it, and then she passed away. You know, so I mean that, you know, when we talk about the risk, you know, a lot of this is focused on sick and old people, you know, are really worried about it. You know, my mother, who was transported, you know, had it because she was worried about that because of my dad and stuff. So I've always thought that, you know, that's why we only have 400 people. 400 people did the risk that they're really worried about that. And so, I mean, I guess when it comes to those enhancements, I do have one other thing, though, I do want to bring up, and that is a concern of mine that, and again, I voted against this EMS assessment tax. I want to make that clear. But the council approved it, and I'm trying to figure out how the fire department was able to decide not to do it until this got done. Because that, you know, that's not the action the council took.
Now, as we previously discussed, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, we provided you updates previously in the months leading up to this that one of the issues that we saw before implementing is some cities had to implement a program like this, and without having some of these answers that we had today, we would have gone out there, put these feet in place, and been a much worse situation like these other cities. We've learned from their mistakes that by just implementing the fee without an education campaign or without adding these other amenities, the program would have been set up for failure. And so we've shared that with the council. We will be bringing it back to you at a future date to resolve these issues.
Yeah, I think in the future, though, that should be something included in the action, that we have some kind of action from the council that, you know, we approved it as of that date based on the information we had, and if the staff wasn't comfortable with the information, you know, we should have then, I think, had a bigger part of forming that out. I know I did because I met with the chief several times about it, and as stuff came up, but I still think there should have been a more formal process of council approval. I'm very sensitive about stuff the council approves, even if it's wrong. So, Mr. Wu?
Okay, and quickly, okay, you just mentioned all the city charge. It's like $50 to $60, okay, but why with $70? Okay, so okay, we're talking about our memberships is dropping. Well, that's one of the reasons, because compared with the service is similar to other city, but we charge $70. So right now everybody is very sensitive about the fee and the charge. So what I'm saying, we just mentioned about South Pasadena $54, Arcadia $62, okay, and nobody, I'm waiting for somebody $80 or $70, none. Okay, so everybody's 50 something around there. So were you thinking about the price maybe come down slightly so we can get more membership? Okay, so this is another suggestion.
Well, that was, the $70 thing was approved by the council.
Correct.
A couple years ago, right?
Yeah, but I understand. Today, you're talking about $70, but compare, we're talking about $50, $60. So is it possible that you can look into it? Is this accessible to something around $60, okay, $10 less, so we can get more membership to join? So hopefully, okay, Councilman Thomas will join this program too. Okay, so.
If we could suggest, perhaps we look at that if we put these other enhancements in, because they're getting more value for the program. And because I don't believe we've got any data showing that there's been concern or complaints from folks saying it's too expensive. I'll defer to fire to see if they've had any complaints.
No, actually, we, again, one of the points that's in the staff report, we actually contacted and made a very, it took a while, but we actually made phone calls to 191 people, many of which, again, we had to leave voicemails or try to reach out. But those conversations we did have, one of the questions we were kind of trying to figure out is the $70 too high? And not once, at least of this, I think I did about 80 phone calls personally. I never heard one complaint. If anything, it was a lot of just gratitude and a lot of people giving me their name. I think one lady's name was Ruth Miller, and she wanted to say that despite the fact that she couldn't make it here tonight to council, she wanted City Council to know that because she's on a fixed income, she really wants this program to continue. But again, I know this doesn't really address your point, Councilmember Wu, in terms of the $70 price, but I'll defer to Chris in terms of what next steps.
Because just name all the city, we are the highest, okay? And I understand you want to increase some of the thing. $10 maybe is nothing to some people, but maybe for fixed income, there's a lot. At the same time, how many members we have right now?
191.
491. Compare
191.
491.
100.
Only 191.
Yes.
Compare with all other cities, thousands of them.
Correct.
So we have a lot of way to catch. So,
Yes.
so you need to think about marketing, okay,
Yes.
and find a way. At the same time, maybe entice a little bit, $69.99 or $69, okay, something like a little bit more attractive to people. Say, hey, this is only 60 something.
Sure.
Okay, because 70, when I hear it, is still kind of in the high end. Okay, so that's another suggestion. So we can get more member. Okay, this is another suggestion. Marketing, price, and you get more members, then you can cover most of your service.
Well, that reminds me, I mean, the comments made by the council this evening, a better way to market it. While we don't have our own utility, we might be able to partner with Athens to provide information and do a pass-through through them. They have offered that in the past. If that's something the City Council wishes us to look into, we'll be more than happy to reach out to Athens and see if it's something that they can collect as a pass-through on our behalf.
You know, there is a difficulty in comparing cities because they're all structured differently in how things are done. Because, for example, in Covina, which is a county fire, you know, there's an assessment that's on the tax bill that people pay for EMS services. You know, and so, you know, in Arcadia, they also have a specific public safety tax. I mean, there's different mechanisms everywhere. Chino Valley, you know, they have their own fire district, you know, that does it, not the two cities. And so there's all kinds of different ways that people collect the money. The bottom line is, you know, whether I like the fee or not, obviously the numbers are going to go up from 191 because people can sign up right when they're going to get hit with a bill. One, and two, if they're going to get hit with an EMS assessment fee. So either way, almost every contact you come into will end up being, whether you're marketing it or not, you know, I don't know if it's called marketing, you know, it's like pay this higher fee or pay this one now, you know. I don't know what you call that, but I don't call it marketing, but it's going to go up. I mean, that's the given because of that process. And I actually don't have a problem with letting people sign up right then to avoid the extra cost that's possible.
But the membership is only 12 months, right? So they sign up today for 12 months and they can cancel 12 months later. Okay, so we want to keep them always sign up. So I think this retaining is very important. They only sign up 1 year is useless. Okay, for your budget. Okay, you need thousands of people in West Covina, and they continue to appreciate your service. And so I think this continual marketing is very important. Okay, this is how people today. If you will go to this detail, I don't know this is really useful, especially if you have an elderly living with you. Okay, I think this I will pay for it. Okay, so something education and plus is benefit to the household. Okay, I think people will sign up for $69.99. Okay, and then they go for whole years. Okay, timeless. Okay, many times of calling for ambulance. Hopefully not. Okay, but happened to me. I call 6 times with 1 year and go to Queensville Valley emergency. Okay, and it's very tough. Okay, so I understand this is very good value for our residents.
And if I may add, I think the idea of the EMS fee is once you get a member in, they see the benefit of the program, instead of paying that fee that one time, they're more likely to renew saying, this is a benefit I need to take advantage of.
And just a little bit more information about marketing, just to add, we realize that direct mailers are very cost prohibitive. When I had priced it out, it's between $5,000 or $10,000 just to do one mailer. And so to be more creative, to Chris's point, we're actually in talks with Athens. Next month, I believe, there will actually be a bill insert in the Athens bill to every single Athens subscriber who will understand and know about the ambulance subscription program since we have a bill insert. Separately, we're actually in talks or trying to reach out to different water companies. As you may know, there are 8 or 9 different water districts in West Covina. We're trying to do the exact same thing with the different water bills. And finally, we're also trying to be a little more creative, similar to the police department when they do like their coffee with cops. We're going to start doing in-person meetings at like the senior center, maybe going to other community events, et cetera, to make sure that we go out there and actually spread the word. Because again, when we're doing the surveys, one of the concerns that came up was, hey, how are you guys marketing this program? I only learned from my friend or my family member who told me how great this program is, and I've never looked back ever since. So we definitely understand that marketing, to Councilmember Stoneman's point, is one of the biggest concerns, but in consideration of our limited budget, we're just trying to be as creative as we can.
Okay, Mr. Wilshire?
Yeah, I have a question as far as business license. If we adopt this, can we do that with the renewal of their business license and put this out with it? I mean, it'll be their option whether they want to sign up for it.
Yeah, we can look into it. Absolutely, we can look into it.
Okay, does that also mean we're planning to cover people in City Hall? Is that also what it means too?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
We do get calls for services here at City Hall for
Herb,
city staff.
Right there, Herb too.
Well, he's a commissioner.
Yeah, but yeah. We had that happen too. There's a list here of modifying the program to continue coverage so it follows the person, provide coverage for family members and visitors, include local businesses and employers as outlined, cover private ambulances, waive the EMS assessment fee for people who sign up, and allow Whitman Enterprises to manage the ambulance subscription program. Is there someone that wants to make that a whole motion, or someone want to take something out?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, the whole thing.
Okay, Mr. Johnson made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Wu. Is there more discussion? Mr. Toma.
Yeah, thank you. I do have a question. Just to this point that Councilman Wu made about, if we're going to do 70, don't you think that 69 does actually sound bad? If it's not going to disrupt things too much, there may be a reason why having an even number is somehow useful, which if it is, you can explain to me. But if it's not, it does seem that, the reason why people do $69.99 is because it works. So I would just lower it $1 to make it 69 and follow those things. If people are
included in the motion
up for that.
as well?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, if you're willing to take
So now
that.
we're cutting the fire assessment tax.
How about 59?
69?
59.
So actually.
No, okay, and that would include a $1 reduction. Is there any more discussion on this? Okay, any objection to consent? Okay, it's approved. Okay, item number 13. Airbnb, Mr. Or Ms. Short-term rentals, Mr. Wu's report? No, they go first. They give the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we're going to have Deputy City Manager Laura Minnick give a brief report and answer some questions regarding Councilmember Wu had requested this item to be agendized to review short-term rentals here in our community, so I'll have Ms. Minnick give that brief report.
Thank you, Mr. Freeland. Good evening, council, members of the community, and those watching at home. My name is Laura Minnick, and I'm your Deputy City Manager here for the City of West Covina. This item is actually at the request of Councilman Tony Wu, and it was regarding having the City Council examine and take a look at short-term rentals, commonly known and heard of as Airbnb, Home Away, VRBO, lots of different terminology and different websites that utilize them. But it's essentially for residents to be able to turn their homes, their residential homes, and be able to rent them out as vacation homes, either by room or by the entire household. So there's different types of short-term rentals. You can actually have what's called a vacation rental, and the individual is able to get the entire household. You can also do what's called hosted home sharing or unhosted home sharing, where they actually are able to get just a single room in the home, and possibly the property owner or resident is actually present at the same time. Now, with regard to the City of West Covina, currently with our municipal code, if you look at the way these things are taxed, the municipal code speaks to the definition of a hotel and does include residential homes or lodging homes, apartment homes, and a rooming house. And it defines that as a hotel. So if you just simply look at our municipal code in that section, short-term rentals appear to be allowed in West Covina. But when you contrast that with our zoning code here in the City of West Covina, a hotel use is not allowed in a residential zone. So the two seem to conflict with each other. When it comes to our business license fees, we do have a business license fee for hotels. Thank you. When it comes to business license fees, we do have a business license fee for hotels here in the City of West Covina. However, no short-term rentals are currently registered for a business license fee in the City of West Covina. Staff did do some market research of several other communities, as well as taking a look at the various websites that currently allow individuals to post short-term rentals, and looking at different opportunities to actually rent a short-term rental here in the City of West Covina. It was less than about 10 rentals on any of the given websites, and there's about 15 most popular websites that are out there. When it comes to enforcement, there are some challenges when it comes to enforcing the law with regard to short-term rentals. So some communities have chosen to do an outright ban on short-term rentals in their community and have seen significant challenges when it comes to code enforcement, because on the websites such as VRBO, Airbnb, HomeAway, etc., the individuals that are listing their homes oftentimes do not post the physical address of their home for safety reasons, and they won't give that address out until you actually book the residential rental with a credit card, and usually not until the 24 hours prior to you showing up on site. Also, the websites have gotten very sophisticated in that while they do drop a pin to show where possibly that location is, they will move that pin every couple days so that it doesn't give you the exact address of the residential rental until you actually book that short-term rental. Now, there's also some challenges when it comes to code enforcement. There are concerns that residents will have when you allow short-term rentals. Oftentimes, they might be concerned about loud parties, noise disturbances, guests coming in and out at all hours of the night, parking challenges. And these are some of the things that other communities that have chosen to allow short-term rentals are trying to mitigate and work with their community members on. Listed in the report, I did include several cities that have been prominent in Southern California, have taken various steps and degrees with regard to short-term rentals, including the city of Los Angeles, Pasadena, Hermosa Beach, Palm Springs, and Anaheim, just to give you a wide swath of what some cities are doing and what their successes and challenges have been. We also had staff survey some of our local cities in the San Gabriel Valley, just to kind of give you a flavor as to what those communities are doing. And of our neighboring cities, those that allow short-term rentals include the city of Glendora, the city of Azusa, the city of La Puente, and the city of Pomona. Now, when it comes to taxing short-term rentals, if the city council is interested in aligning our zoning code and modifying that to allow that use here. The taxes that would be applicable to short-term rentals would include the business license fee, and that could be as part of the hotel business license. And then it would also include what's called a transient occupancy tax, and that is a tax that's assessed on visitors that are visiting our community. The current transient occupancy tax rate for the city of West Covina is 10%, and when it comes to our business license fee with regard to hotels, it's billed at a variable rate, and it starts with a base fee for your first 2 units, or 2 rooms, you could say, with regard to this. And then there's an additional fee when you go over 2 units or over 2 rooms, and it's based on a per unit fee. Now, an example, in case you're curious with regard to our business license fee for hotels, the local Fairfield by Marriott here in town has 110 rooms, and they pay their business license fee for 2018 about $2,100. If someone were to want to rent a 4-bedroom home here in West Covina and use it as a short-term rental and want to use the entire home as a short-term rental, should the council decide to move in that direction, and we wanted to use the existing business license fee structure, they would pay roughly $126 a year as a hotel business license fee for the city of West Covina using our existing business license fee schedule under the hotel category. If council is interested in making those modifications and does want to align the taxation and the municipal code with regard to our zoning code, there's a couple options listed in the back of your staff report that include directing staff to return to you with a proposed ordinance that creates a new category of business license, which essentially modifies our hotel category to identify short-term rentals as being clearly part of that, specifying the application process, operating requirements for short-term residential rentals, possibly utilizing a permit process so that our planning department can be able to issue those permits and then revoke those permits if they were to have multiple code enforcement violations. And then also, of course, updating our zoning code regarding short-term residential rentals. Now, we do still have Jeff Anderson, our planning director, here if you have any questions regarding our zoning code. And then also myself, I am available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Wu.
Thank you. I think the reason I want to put this agenda because I have received mail and phone call regarding the issue they have with a short-term rental issue with their neighbor. So that's why I even don't know our city allow this kind of business or not. So that's why I want to bring up to discuss. Is West Covina allow this kind of business, short-term rental? We're not talking about long-term rental. Long-term rental, of course, this allowed. You own the property, you lease out. You have a contract. It's either month to month or a 1 year's contract or a 2 years contract. But when you short-term, meaning you just lease for 1 day or 2 days. It's like an Uber of the house, just people Uber you and boom, okay, they go to your house and for stay 1 day or 2 days, okay, or even when your house was a party house, okay, so that create a potential problem, meaning the neighbor, okay, and they worry about who's in and out of the property. So how do we, first thing is this, do we allow this kind of business? And second thing, if we do not allow this business, how we enforce? So it's from cost enforcement or somebody else. So there's a couple of issues, okay? And if we allow this kind of business, do we want to, tax them for potentially business license or this? Okay, we don't know, okay? And I know some people in Rural High doing this kind of Airbnb, they're making $7,000, $8,000, even $20,000 a month. Just try to do this kind of Airbnb, very short term, and they purchase or rent a big house and they lease out for the room. And do we allow this kind of business or not? So this is another thing I think we have to think about. And potentially, if West Covina in the future, we have a nice destination of so-called 5-star hotel over there with amenity, and we have a lot of people want to come to our beautiful city. Do we have a more of desire of this kind of Airbnb or short-term rental? Do we need to maybe beforehand, if we cannot ban everything, so we have some kind of coordinates to make sure to keep the peace of all the residents and keep the property value over there? This is what my question is.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer those questions. So the first question from Councilman Wu was, do we allow short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBO here in the city of West Covina? So because our zoning code does not allow hotels in residential zones, we effectively do not allow short-term rentals here in the city of West Covina. Because someone, if they wanted to operate one of these legally, would have to obtain a hotel business license. And then in order to do so, we would evaluate where that was located and see the conflict in that they were located in a residential zone. With regard to the second question of how do we enforce? So currently, residents have the ability to call code enforcement and issue and mention complaints regarding noise, loud noises, parties, nuisances of that type, and then code enforcement would go out on a response basis. We do not have staff that are combing the short-term rental websites. It's not been proven to be effective to do so unless you have someone that is solely dedicated to that. And the example that was given by the city of Santa Monica is they actually do have an administrative analyst whose full-time job is dedicated to combing the websites for Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, et cetera, finding the short-term rental listings, actually booking them with a city credit card. They then have the code enforcement officers stay in the unit in order to actually prove the violation has occurred. So it's a very extensive and complicated process, and it's not something that our code enforcement officers are currently doing. Your final question is, do we want to tax them? That ultimately is a policy decision by the City Council as to whether or not you want to amend the zoning code to allow a hotel business in a residential zone. If you were to do so, hotels are subject to both transient occupancy tax as well as our business license fee.
So my final question would be, can we just ban them? So nope, not okay at all. But okay, she just say, okay, we cannot ban them due to ban.
They're, maybe I can clarify. They are banned. I think the issue is the difficulty of enforcement.
I remember, okay, Laura told me that, or maybe, okay, our city manager told me that we cannot ban them due to, okay, some state law, okay, they can challenge and sue the city if we ban them to do this short-term lease.
I think that happens if they've been allowed, like in Anaheim, there was, the way their code was written, they were allowed to do it, and so people invested and did stuff based on what their code was, and then when they tried to ban it, they sued saying you're taking our property rights away. But see, right now, according to what she just said, is that because of our zoning, that technically they're not allowed to be here in West Covina. The question is enforcement, and that's a different issue. That's a different issue. I do think, you know, obviously, you know, you mentioned the party houses and stuff like that. You know, there's some people that live by party houses that people live there year round, you know. So, you know, code enforcement goes out no matter what I would hope it is. The status of the rental is not important to how code enforcement does those kinds of things, because that impacts everybody. So, so that's the question. The question is, what would council like to direct staff to do or not do, or what?
My suggestion will be continue ban. Okay, this is my, I don't know how the city council.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Warshaw.
I think we should continue the ban, but I would like to see, as Santa Monica is doing, they've hired somebody to go through that process. I'd like to see if there is maybe a service that does that kind of thing and they get paid by the fine that would go against those individuals that are trying to do that in order to stop them.
You know, I don't know if it's worth our time to go after the 7 people that are doing this, you know, probably. I mean, that's where I'm coming from. I mean, I would allow our Airbnb rentals, you know, because, you know, in certain circumstances, I think it'd be beneficial. You know, I know the 4th, on the, you know, around the 1st of the month, 1st of January, people are trying to find places to stay all the time around here. Even though we're far away from Pasadena, I can't believe, you know, how far people will stay in order to be there. So, I mean, so I don't necessarily have a problem with temporary stuff, but right now it's banned, so we'd have to lift the ban and go through the structure. I don't know how to do that, you know, but this would also apply to people like if they listed on Craigslist saying, hey, you know, I got, you know, a room's going to rent for 2 weeks, you know, or whatever. You know, it applies, technically that ban applies to everybody that would do that. And I have to believe that number is actually larger than we think, because I think Airbnb is probably a very small part of the transactional businesses that take out there for short-term rentals, I would think.
Because you have different nationality, different languages of promotion.
Mr. Toma.
Yeah, thank you. I'm fine with the status quo for now. I do think, you know, I've stayed at Airbnb places, and it's a big convenience, depending on your family situation, some people for houses and whatnot. So I will, and I'm aware that there's a relatively small number in West Covina relative to other places like Santa Monica and whatnot. So I don't think it's become a problem that we have to deal with at this point. But I will now be looking out for it because it might be something that people want at some point, but I haven't really heard one way or the other. I do think if there's a problem, you know, like the mayor said, then it should be, you know, enforced regardless of the situation of what they're doing. But you do hear about these examples and these anecdotes of people renting them out to groups just looking to party, and that can become a big nuisance for a neighborhood, so that would be the downside. So I don't think I have enough information to change it right now from what it is, but I will at least individually continue to listen for this and see. I think it's only going to grow. Now, whether it grows into a problem, I don't know, but I think that the demand for it may grow because more people become aware of this kind of thing, and it is very useful for travelers and whatnot. We'll never have the same problems that in Anaheim or Santa Monica or West Hollywood have, but it is something that I'll be paying attention to in the future.
Okay, is that clear, I guess? Mr. Wu?
So can we follow what you just said? Can we make a motion to maybe have a city to look into it, the potential in the future? What kind of co-ordinates for this kind of, if we allowed later on for the Airbnb or short-term lease?
I think we're looking for direction if you want to do it or not. If you say you wish to do it, then we will put together the package to do that for you.
Okay. We still ban right now, but I'm talking about in the future, potentially, we don't know what is going to grow even bigger, so should we maybe look into it, the potential, and bring back, and then maybe we have a lot of demand, just like you say, you stay in the B&B, and let's put it, okay, and helpful, and okay, maybe in July 4th, maybe we have something going on in the maybe very near future, maybe we have a lot of demand, and we don't have enough hotel, so people want to stay around this neighborhood, maybe this thing will happen. And we have a lot of kind of vacant home around, so possible this thing will happen. Just say maybe a prevention we can kind of prepare. This is my suggestion.
Right, if I can respond, I think this is more of a policy decision of the city council. So if the city council wants to allow, we'll take the actions necessary to bring it back to you to allow, either now or in the future. If they want to outright ban it, we'll continue, and that's just a receive and file of this report. It doesn't, if the council is interested in doing it, it doesn't hurt us to put something in the books that allows this. However, it needs to be, that policy is that you will allow this moving forward.
Okay, okay, then we see and file.
It's been moved to receive and file.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion on this? Any objection to consent? Okay, it's approved. Are there any AB 1234 reports? I think I went to the League of Cities. Town of USC, did I report on that? Did I report on that? The USC, the League of Cities, they had their, what was it, their division meeting, yeah, down, unfortunately, by USC. And so I was down there, and the presentation was about earthquakes. And, you know, it's sort of like what Mr. Toma was talking about as far as the risk assessment. You know, we all know an earthquake's coming, and we're not doing anything about it because we don't know when it's coming. And they've talked about different things that we can do and we should look at. And anyways, I attended that. Is there anything else people want to bring up for future stuff? Agendas? Anything? Our next meeting is February 6th, Ronald Reagan's birthday, and this meeting is adjourned. This meeting is adjourned.